I said in C programming, anytime you are declaring a variable, you must specify a data type. So once you specify a data type, you must not store any other value or any other data except the data you specify in that particular variable. So, and I said, okay, this is here we are declaring an int variable, which is, so it is expecting integer value. And we all know what integer means. Integers are just natural numbers starting from 0. They are not decimal number. So they are natural number. They start from 0. They don't have decimal points or decimal place here. So that is what we call integers. So now, if I now save a character, for instance, and I said anything that is in a single quote, whether it is an integer or a character, so once it is in a single quote, so it will represent a character. So
Okay.
what I'm saying is this. Let's say, for instance, let me change this back to integer value. Let's say I create another integer variable and I name it, let me name it A, for instance. And I now put C here. Let's say I put C here, or I put it in a single quote. So this we we get an error message here because A variable is expecting an integer value, not a character value. Please, do you all understand now?
Yes.
Yes.
If there is any question before I move further, please let me know.
Hello, you were saying that integer is from 0 to, is it 100 or 90,
No,
98?
no, no, nothing. I said any natural value without decimal point.
Okay, okay, okay,
Yes.
understood.
So now, and about character, I said even if it's an integer value, but you put it in a single quote like this, so it will represent a character like that, not an integer again. And we are going to get error message like that too. Please, do you get it now? Character in C is
Yeah.
any value at all, whether it is an integer or character itself or symbol. Once it is in a single quote, that is a character. It might be, if I write A like this, a 1 like this, which is an integer value. So once I put it in a single quote, it is no longer an integer, but what? A character. So even if it's a symbol, for instance, let me put $sign. So this one will also represent a character. So if you want to store this kind of value, you have to use char or car, anyone you like to call it. So that is where you will save it. So one thing I still want to apart from that, let me. So these two are correct now, but this one are not valid. So we have to remove the single quote. So now we have another data type called double. Oh, let me float first. So let me store CDPA. Let me just name it 4.52, 4.53. So float is any number that have decimal. That is float. So, and we have another data type. We have double. Let me let's say cost. Let me name 5.56. So now you might be wondering that what is the difference between float and double? There's actually a difference between float and double. Floats float represent just 4 bytes of memory, while double represents 8 bytes of memory in our yes, 8 bytes of memory. Please, do you understand? An integer value also represents 4 bytes. So now, assuming you want to have maybe you want to have a data that is going to have a very long decimal point. So it will be better if you can use double in that case. So that is the difference between float and double. So if you want to save any decimal value that is going to that is going to have many numbers, so it is preferable to use double, because this has it, as you can see, it has a bigger memory than float. Please, do you understand?
Yes, we understood.
Very good, thank you. So now, and that is variable. Another type of variable I want us to look at is array of characters. Array of characters or strings. Yeah, I want to state that in C programming, we don't actually have a data type called string, but we have it, we call it array of characters. But it is actually a string, because what we refer to as string in programming language is a sequence of character. So once you have, let's say for instance, let me declare a name. Let me just put it in. Let me see. So this is array of character because we have sequence of character in it, and the way to specify or to identify array of character, to differentiate between character and array of character, is a string or array of character we have double quotes, whereas character we only have a single quote. So that is just the difference. So, and this array of character or string, you can actually declare it in different manners. I can use pointer and I'm going to get the same result. There is other way. I can use, let me call this one other name. Let me just, okay. Another way to specify this is this, whereby I will have to be putting this. Please, who is that? So these are the three ways we can declare array of character or string in C programming language. It's either you use square brackets, or you use pointer, or you use this one. So please, who is that? Please, can you turn off your mic? So the most preferable one is these two. So, and those are the most used anytime you want to create array of character or string. And always remember that the difference between string and character, the first thing is quotes. We have single quote in character, and we have double quote in string or array of characters. And array of character always end with non-terminator, but I don't want to go to that aspect now so that you won't be getting it confused. So string always end with non-terminator. Just know that one at back of your mind. So when we get to the loop, we will explain it. So, and I think that is all I have to say on variables. So please, if you have any question, please let me know.
Oh, please, I have a question with regards to float and double.
Okay, okay.
Okay, apart from the difference in the number of bytes for float and double, is does the variable the value you want to save,
Yes.
does it matter? Like the 4.35, can it be saved as a double also?
Yes, it can, but that would be a misuse of our memory. You know, C programming language always take they always make sure that we are using minimum, or we are trying, the purpose is to be able to manage our memory. Say you understand, so that if you are using double when you are supposed to be using float, so instead of assigning 4 bytes to your variable, so it will be assigning 8 bytes, and that one is just a misuse of memory. I don't know why I'm
Okay.
telling myself that.
Yes, that's the form.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. You're welcome.
But can I ask when is it best? Sorry, can I ask when is it best to use a double?
Please, can you come again?
Can I ask? Like, I'm asking when is the best time to use a double? Like, when is the right situation to use a double?
The best time to use double is when you know that maybe the result or the kind of data you want to store in it is going to, assuming for instance, let's say you create a program that multiplies sequence of number, let's say product of, maybe we look through an array of an integer that consists of maybe 1,000 integers, say for instance, and you want to multiply the product of all the values in that 50 array. What I'm saying is this: assuming I create integer, let me just name it a, and I want to have 1,000 there. So let's say this is sorry. Now, let's take for instance that I want to look through this array of integer, and I want
Yeah.
to multiply each value or each element in this array by one another, whereby one multiplied by two, the result of one multiplied by two will be multiplied by three, multiplied by four to 1,000.
Okay. Yeah.
So we might end up to have a result like, let's say for instance, maybe like value like that is very very long. Do you
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah. 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 I guess.
So this kind of value, if we save it in maybe an integer of float, we might encounter a memory error called stack overflow, or another thing. What's the name of this thing? I want to remember. So I want to remember. There's another. We said segmentation fault. Yeah,
Yeah. Segmentation error.
segmentation fault. Stack overflow is different. Stack overflow is when you are having, is declaring a lot of variables, and those variables are depending on others. So you understand. So
Okay.
our stack overflow memory, because in our memory we have 4 segments there. So we have id, we have stack, we have global, and we have text. So our stack memory is where all our local variable used to store. So when you are now having a lot of variable, if you are having a lot of, please sorry.
No, no problem. You can go on. You can hear you.
So now, if you are now having a lot of variable that depends on others, maybe you have you created 4 functions. Each function are utilizing the variables of other functions. So when you call one function, the variable is saved on the stack memory, and you can and the sorry please. I don't remember this. So please sorry. So now, if one variable is depending on others, once you call a function, those variables will be storing in the stack memory. And one of the attribute of stack memory is anytime you call a function, once you utilize that variable, the variable will just disappear from the memory. Say you get it. But
Yeah.
once the variable are depending on others, whereby if you call one, you have to use the second one before you can get the result of the other ones. So the stack will be like they will be piling up, and once it reach the maximum space we have in our stack memory, so we have error message called stack overflow,
Okay.
and our program will crash at that moment.
Okay, so if I want to store a product that is so large, I can store with a double.
Yes, and we have under int, we have long int. Under
Okay, what's the use of long int?
Yeah, let me explain it. We have we have long we have long int. Long int also represents just 4 bytes, 4 bytes of memory. We have short int. Short int represents 2 bytes. Maybe you know that the kind of an integer the kind of data you want to store in that particular integer variable is not going to be that much, so you can use short int just to reduce the size of memory you want to that is going to consume. Say you understand. So, but we
Okay,
have long int. Long int, it take 8 bytes, just like double two.
double. Okay.
So if you know that you are going to have a long integer, so you can just take it in long int. We have unsigned and signed too. Can anyone explain signed and unsigned for me or for us rather? We have unsigned and signed. Yes.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So signed, unsigned, long, short. They are all called modifiers. So they
Yes.
modify the innate sizes and characteristics of those data types. So when you have unsigned, so we all said int is 4 bytes. So unsigned, when you use unsigned, it is also 4 bytes. But we know an int can take like -2, I think from -2 billion to 2 billion characters in terms of values. So unsigned int takes only positive. So instead of from -2 billion to 2 billion, it takes from
Thank you.
0 to 4 billion.
Thank you
So
very
it
much.
gives you more character values in terms of range in the positive side.
Thank you very much. So unsigned int only takes positive value, while sign int take both positive and negative value. So that is just what we need to know.
So in other words, understanding this what did he just call them? Signed, unsigned, int, and the rest. He called them one in now. What is
Modifiers.
that?
Fire.
Modifiers? Yeah. Understanding the use of this modifier will help us manage our memory when
Of
we are
course,
Subsizing
writing our.
yes.
all
Yes,
modifiers.
yes.
Right? So it will help us like to manage
Even
the
my
memory
long
and everything.
int become modifier. Modify this int.
It means it modify int. So you understand, you know we have int as a data type, and that is we can actually the purpose is to just to
And
to to manage our memory, and that is just the reason.
So
So
if I pass it an unsigned int, if an unsigned int variable, and I'm trying to get a product that is giving me a negative answer, it will it will be an error.
of
sign
course,
int
of course, of course.
is only for negative values, but sign can go for negative and positive.
One thing we
So
need to
signed int
understand.
and int.
So at what point can man use on sign? Since sign can go for negative and positive.
So
What
one
point can
thing
man use int? But that's yeah, no, both positive. Sign they use both positive and negative. I know. So what's the sense of
Can you
someone
speak
using
aloud?
unsigned can go for the two
Or just for like maybe try it is so peculiar, like
specific?
specific, yeah.
Are you with me, please?
Because
Yes,
both of them
yes.
is it
Okay,
for by
okay.
first side to
No.
utilize? Huh?
Habib, can
Yes,
you please
yes.
explain that character as that
Yeah.
string aspect?
Oh, yeah.
Can I what?
The, the string aspect, the string and character, the array of characters and string.
Yeah, can I explain it?
Yes, yes, just
O-
throw some light there.
Okay, okay. So character represents just a single byte.
Okay,
But if it is array of character, each character in our array of character will represent one byte. That means here we are going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But we are going to have 7 because of non-terminator, which is the
okay,
last, which represent the last element in our string or array of character.
okay,
It is written like this.
okay,
So it is going to represent 7 bytes like that.
okay. What of string? That character for star S.
Yes, it's the same thing. The reason why this asterisk represent pointer variable.
Yes,
The reason why we can actually define array of character or strings like this is because array of character or strings can also it is not actually a pointer per se, but because the first element of any array of character or string will give us the address of that first element. So, and that is why we can actually store it like this. What I mean is this.
yeah. Understand.
You understand that?
Understood.
Thank you
Yes,
very much. Yeah.
yes. We did that the last our last task, so
Okay.
it
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
now makes sense a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it now
And we
makes
are
sense.
still going.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
We are still going to talk more about pointer because.
I know we are going to talk about pointer, but
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
Of course, of course.
If I declare an array of character
Yeah.
like this now, and I want to use it in my this thing while I'm writing my code.
Yes.
Let's say for name, for instance, let's say
Yeah.
I want to call it. Would I use the square bracket with it, or will I also use the pointer like the star s with it when I'm trying to call it in my code?
Yeah. That is a very good question. Um.
Like you
It
want
get
to print it out now. Like
no.
print
Yes,
L.
let's say I want.
Want to print out. Okay.
Actually, there is a lot of way we can go about that. But because of our ALS task, because we are using a feature function, so I'll firstly talk about that one. A feature function can only print out a single character.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You, please, do you all agree with me?
yeah, it's true now.
So in that case, if you want to print this thing out, so you will need to look through all this array for you to be able to print them one after the other. And when we get to why loop, we are going to do that. But I just want you to understand something here. But assuming what we are talking about is this, there are some cases whereby maybe you loop through, like for instance, let's say I want to print something else. If I look through this element and it equals to letter O, like I want to look through all these elements, and if one element is equal to letter O, I want to change that value from O to another character, for instance. That one will require us to firstly look through that array of character or string first. Then we
Yes.
have to write a condition that we check whether that particular element at that particular index is equal to character O or not. So in that case, if we are using pointer, so you will need to dereference. You need to do it like this, because if you just write s alone, it means the value we be getting will be the address of our like for instance, what I mean is this. Let's say I didn't declare my array of character like this. Maybe I use the second one, for instance, and after I look through it, I want to find an element that equals to b, for instance. So if I use s, unless if I put square bracket and I to it, this will give me the element. But if I use s alone, I'm going to get the address of that particular element. Please, do you understand what I mean? But
Yes,
instead of
sir.
using square bracket, if I don't want to use square bracket, I can actually use pointer. I can actually use this the reference. You know, this asterisk is used for three things. We are using it first for declaring a pointer variable. The second thing we are using it for is to the reference is to the reference that particular variable, so that we can know the value we store in that address. And the third way we are using it for is to modify that value in the address or to access the value. Do you all agree with me?
Mm.
Don't worry if you don't understand what I mean. But when we get to pointer, we actually talk more about that one.
So in
But what
other
I,
words, if I want to print a bit, for instance, after
yes,
declaring it as a char variable using a pointer,
yes,
I would have to use like print f, then the star s.
yes, because star s means string. But let's say in a case where we are asked to use putchar instead, how are you going to do it?
Yes, I don't understand that picture. Oh.
What do you say? You don't understand that putchar?
So
Don't worry,
In
don't worry.
in
You are going
in
to you are
picture you print separately now. You print it singly, making use of your single quotation mark, printing 111. So it's not like
yes.
intent, yeah.
But
In
some
picture,
what I think somebody asked that question in the group this morning, and I tried to explain as much as possible. Picture is expecting it can only print out a single character at a point or at once.
yes,
So now, if we want to print this thing now, it is
you
more
must be
than a
applying
character. So the only way we can do that is to look through all these
each of
elements,
them. Yes,
and at each iteration we'll be printing each element. At each iteration we'll be printing each element.
it will
Don't worry,
print the
each
hello.
element. Yes,
Yes,
for instance, it will firstly print A, then the second
E,
iteration it will print E, the third iteration it will print L, the fourth iteration. But that won't happen in our own case, because it just going to happen at once. Say you understand. But one thing you need to understand, anytime you are writing a program, you must have a sense of how your program is running. Say you understand, in sequence order, so that you will know what, if even if at all, if it is going to give you something else, you will know where the error is. You'll be able to debug your code. Say you understand. When we are going to, I think that is the second concept, or is it the third one? Okay, we are going to check if statement, then loop. So I think let us move to if statement. If there's any question on variables, please let me know so that we can explain better. I want us to go to more interesting concepts. Any question,
Are we
please?
going to solve the task today?
Don't worry. The first thing we should really work on is to understand the concept first, and that is the mistake most of us are making. When all you care about is task, you won't be able to learn the right way you are supposed to learn. You won't even learn at your own pace, because you just want to finish your task at the right time, so before the deadline, and that will stop you, will restrict you from learning the right way you are supposed to learn, for you to actually take most of the resources and everything they provide for us. So please don't let us rush into the task, but let us understand the concept, so that when we get to the task, I won't be the only one doing it. We'll be doing it together, because we already understood the concept. So please don't let us rush. We
yeah,
get
yeah.
there. So that is that under variable. So I want to, can I clear this one?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let me just clear it. Now, let's talk about if statement. What do you use if statement for, please? If statement. Is anybody, please? What are we use if statement for?
Check. We use it to check for conditions. If the condition is met or the condition is not met.
Thank you very much. So there's no more to it. We simply use if statement to check condition. And if we try to understand the concept of programming very well, we need to have a right condition because our machine or our computer is very like they are so dumb that they can't understand anything until we specify what we need them to do for us. Say you understand. And that is why you should understand if statement very well. It is very powerful because even if you check all the tasks we've been doing, we are using if statement very well because any condition you want to write, you just have to use if statement. There's no other thing you can use apart from if statement. And there is, if you don't use if statement, the other thing you can use is switch. And I don't think we've not required to use switch since. So they are doing the same thing. The only thing is that you can only use switch when you are testing a single condition, but you are testing more than a condition. So you are to use if statement. So that is that. So we are using the two for the same thing, if statement and switch. So now let's quickly look at, okay, for instance, let's say we want to write a program like that Fizzbuzz the task Fizzbuzz. I believe we all remember the Fizzbuzz task we did that time. Please, are you all with me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can hear.
Yeah,
yeah.
the Fizzbuzz, we are asked to print 1 to 100, 1 to 100, and for the multiple of 2, we are asked to print fizz. For the multiple of 5, we have to print buzz.
Write it now. Right, just write it. Multiple of two
Okay,
fields.
To print fizz. Now, for the multiple of 15 and 5, multiple of 2 and 5 rather, 2 and 5 to print this buzz. Now, these are conditions. These are conditions, and the only way you can get that is to use if statement. You all get it now. So anytime you want to anytime you want to approach any task, please try to firstly understand what you are asked to do very well before you even try to write any code. The mistake, some of us we write a single code, a single task more than 5 times before we can actually get the accurate answer or the accurate result. And that is because most of us, what we just do is to just jump into our computer. Anytime we see a task, the first thing we just do is to just jump into our PC and just start to write the code without even try to understand the problem. And it is just simple as, if you don't understand the problem, how are you going to solve the problem? So the first thing we need to understand is the problem. But I want to explain something in this particular task. Now, let's say for instance, I've already, like, I know what to do. They asked me to print 1 to 100. So I know that to do that in programming, I need to use loop. Now, after loop, I know that these are the set of conditions I need to test. And I know that the right thing to use here is what? If statements. So you must firstly find a way of simplify the task for yourself. So by doing this, you will know that, okay, these are the two things I need. I need loop to print out from 1 to 100, and you need if statement to check the condition. So you already know that, okay, in this particular task you need loop and if statement. Now, If we let's check if this condition very well, they said for the multiple of 2. Wait, is that is it multiple of 2, or they said number that is divisible by 2? No, it is not. Don't worry, when I will check the task, but I think it is. They are still on the right track. So now,
Can you open the tag so that you
okay,
share it so that we can
okay,
see?
let me try to check where the task is.
Yeah, yeah, first it go up a little bit.
Okay,
Please
yeah,
go, yeah. Yeah.
thank you. Now, write the program that print number from 1 to 100, followed by a new line. But for multiple of 3, yes, print fees instead of the number. And for the multiple of 5, yeah, it is 3 and 5. Sorry. So multiple of 3 print fees, and for the multiple of 3 and 5, it will print fees box. So now, what number are the multiple of 3? So that is the first thing we need to firstly understand. So in this condition, we must find a way of knowing a number that is a multiple of 3. Now, how can we do that? A number that is multiple of 3 means a number that will be divisible by 3, and it won't remain any remainder, without any remainder. And those numbers are just 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on and so forth. So these are the numbers that can be divisible by 3 without getting any remainders. And that is what multiple of 3 means. So now, for the multiple of 5, so it means any number that can be divisible by 5 without any remainder, and so on. Now, for the last one, they say a number that is multiple of 3 and 5. The first number that is multiple of 3 and 5, I think is the first number is 15. Because 3 can go in 15 without any remainder, and 5 can also go in 15 without any remainder. And that is what they mean with multiple of 3 and 5.
Okay.
Are you all with me, please? So
Yes, yes, yes.
15, I think
That
after 15, you have 30, yes, 45, you have
like
30, 45, 60, and so on and so forth. Now, I have a question for you guys. You know that 3 can go in 60 and 5 can go in 60. Now, if I want to write this code, and I firstly check for the multiple of 3, and it gets to number 60 while looping through 1 to 100. And once our machine will read our code line by line. When it gets to this number 11, it will check if the number, which is 60 at this particular time, if it's divisible by 3 or not. And once you check that, okay, 3 is divisible, can go in 60 without any remainder, it will go on and print fees for us instead of fees box. What do you think that happened for that to have occurred? And how do you think we can go about that to get rid of that bug, because it's actually a bug like that? Because when we are supposed to be
come
having boss, we'll be having either fees or boss.
come again with your question, please.
Okay, I said, let's say why I'm looking through my number and I get to 15, for instance. Don't let me use 60 again. And I get to 15. And we know that 3 can go in 15 without any remainder. And we've already set a condition here that any number that can go in 3 without remainder is to print fees for us instead of that number. And it means that once it gets to 15, instead of print fees box that I want, it will go on, because it will check the line, it will check our code line by line. So once it gets to this number 11, the first thing that we see is this condition. So, and once this condition is true, it will go on and print whatever we ask him to print, ask our computer to print. So it won't get to this line 13 again, because once it print that this fees, the loop at that particular time will end. It will just go to the number 16 like that. So I now said, okay,
Oh,
now
yeah.
why is it like that, and what can we do to get rid of that bug? Because it will turn out to be a bug in our code when we finish writing that code. Okay. Anybody?
The only thing that comes to somebody's brain at first is to first make multiple of 3 and 5 the first condition to check for.
What do you say? What do you say?
I said the only thing that can come to my brain in such situation is to first make 3 and 5 the first condition to check for.
Yeah. That is a very good thought, and and that is how it should be. That is how it should be. So if you make our number 13 our first condition, so it will check the first. It will check this before moving to number 11 and number 12, and that is the only way we can do it. And that is what I want to explain. Anytime you are using if statement, or anytime you are trying to test a condition at all, firstly understand what you want to do, so that you won't end up having bugs in your code. Because if you don't check critically, you will just, if somebody write this kind of code, the person will believe that he wrote a good code, but the person actually writes a filthy code, or a dirty code, as they used to call it. So because this kind of code is not going to give us our desired results. So we must firstly, if we have a condition that we test two things at the same time, make sure that that condition actually comes first in your code before other condition that test other things. If you put the condition that check two things or three things at the end, you are not going to get the desired result. Do you understand? Because
Yeah.
our this code, if we write a code like this, and we write the condition like this, when we get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, before we get to 15, we will believe our code is fine, because everything will be running fine at that moment. But once you get to the multiple of 5 and 3 and 5, we start having strange result. Instead of having fizz balls, we have balls in some, and we start wondering why. Say you understand. So please, anytime you are using if statement or any condition at all, once you have a condition that will test two things at the same time, make sure that thing comes first in your code before other things. So that is the first thing I want to state. So
Okay.
let's
Perfect.
simply
Perfect.
write
Perfect.
let's simply write
Understood.
let's simply write an if statement code. So we said if and
Do we
else.
write the if statement first, or are we initializing any variable?
Yes, I will actually declare a variable and initialize it. I just
Just
want
initialize first now so that we know what.
I'm coming to that. So let's declare two variables. Let's call it x and y.
Okay.
X and y, and let's just, so I want the value of x to be 5, and I want the value of y to be just multiple of 5. Let me just say 10. Now I want I want to test a condition that we check whether x is greater than y or less than y. So let's just say, right, if x is less, it's greater than y. If x is less than y, let me say if x is less than y, I want to print out something. I want my code to do something. S, I want it to do another thing. Now we yeah. So now, if x is less than y, I want to say X is, I want to say, let me just say X is, I want to just say the value of X is less than the value of Y. And S, I want to just say no, the value of X is less than Y. No, it is greater than the value of Y. Now, actually, we are hard coded this. Let me just let's make our code more dynamic. Let's ask for the user to input two things and check the value of the two. I think that will make sense than just hard coded in this way. Let us just use an F and store the value of X and Y in it. So we are using scanf. The first thing we need to specify is the identifier, and since it is two, let's put two. And here we'll be having X and Y. So before that, let me ask for the user to enter two things. I just want to make our code more dynamic so that it will be more interesting. Enter two integers. So I believe we all understand what these two lines of code does. So the first one,
Abib,
yes,
Abib,
yes.
Abib, can't you just make it to be interactive? Use print f, enter value of x, scan f,
Okay.
print f again, enter value of y, so that we can have four these things. The person should
No problem. No problem. No problem. Enter
value
value
of x.
X. Okay.
New line, new line.
And
We put a new
I
line
know. I
there
know.
so that okay.
I want to. Hey, which one is this now? Right.
Yes, then they scan f there.
Just save the value of X alone.
Yes, yes,
Then ask for another.
yes, yes. So like it is easier.
Now, just want to copy this. Enter
Enter
value
value of
Y.
y now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I just copy and paste that particular. Uh,
So a
value
quick
of
one,
Y.
quick question, please. Sorry, I'm
Okay.
taking us back. Whenever you use an F, must you use that and X and Y stuff?
Yes. Especially when the value, if the value you want to store there, the value you are collecting from the user from the standard input is an integer, you must put ampersand because we need to access the address instead of the value. We need to access the address of X in order to be able to store the value there.
Is that only for
Yes,
integer or for integer?
if it is character or string, assuming we are asking the user to enter their name, you don't need to put ampersand there. And I've already
Okay,
stated the
okay, okay,
reason.
okay.
I've already
Yes,
stated
I
the reason
understand.
because the first elements of that string or character
The
will give us
address.
the address of the first element.
So you take it as the address. Yeah, I
Yes,
get now.
yes. So that is the
So
reason.
can F take address like it checks for the address, right?
What do you say?
Like can F it deals with address, like it
Yes,
taking the address.
yes, yes,
Okay,
yes, yes.
I get now. Thank you very
The
much.
scan f is used to get input from a user
We use
and it saves it.
yes,
Yes, the
Mm,
scan
I
f,
have-
it
yes,
gets the input from it prompts the input from a user
yes.
and saves the address, yeah, so that it will be easier.
Thank you, thank you.
You are welcome. So the value of x is less than the value of y. No, it is greater than the value of y. So now, let us run our code. So let me just make this. So it asks us for the value of x. What should we input? What should we
Let it
write?
2,
2. Okay. Then for the value of y,
7.
7.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, it said the value of x is less than the value of y. But let us do something here. I forgot to include the new line.
Line.
Yeah. I always forgot that. I don't know why. Okay. I want us to make it more dynamic. Let's know the value of x. The value of x. Let's just put it in a
Bracket.
yes. The value of y to bracket. So that means we put x and y here.
Sorry, I did. One, quick one, please. I've seen in some codes, in some C code, where they use um, percent I instead of percent Z for integer. Does it
Yes.
also work here?
It work here, yes, of course it will. But the reason why I stopped using the I is because most of people, most of the C programmers or C developers, they mostly use D. And D means decimal, but I just don't know why I means integer, because I checked the meaning of this percentage D. They means percentage, this means decimal, Y means integer. But they are using D. I don't know the reason why most of them use D instead of I.
But it works the same way.
Of course, of course. I can let me just put let's try it. Let's use I in one and use D in the other one so that we can test our. So let's go back and run our code. Pick variables. Variables. All of us, let's write 2 and 7 again. Where the value of x is less than the value of y, which is 7. Now, let's run in again and give it, let's give 7 to x and 2 to our y. He said no, it is greater than the value of y. So,
Now let's say we input the same result into.
okay, because yeah, let's run that, but we didn't specify any particular
There will be
condition
there will
to.
be a problem, there will be a bug like that.
Yes, he said no, it is greater than the value of y. Thank you very much. And that is why when you are writing a condition, you must take care of different scenarios
Yeah.
that actually happens or that can occur in your code. So you have to be very, very mindful of it, because if you are testing for, and I don't know if some of you have noticed that even in our task, they will ask for just 2 conditions. Like they will ask us that they are going to test the condition, and the code or the main dot C they are going to use will test for more than 2 conditions later on, and that is why sometimes you will just be wondering like, I actually did the right thing. Why am I getting this? Why am I getting my one of my checker on check successfully? So you understand, and that is the reason why. That is the reason because they check for different scenarios. They didn't state in our what's it called on our task. So we must always ensure that we check for possible conditions and we take care of it before we run our code. So now here now, if you want to take care of that, we just have another if, and we do that by I said if else no, don't let me
It
put it.
was the else if.
I want to put it in. I don't want to tamper with the last one. So let me just have else if, Abi, right?
Yeah.
For me, I use else if in all conditions. I don't
Why do
like
you
that.
you
I
don't
believe
like
I don't like using else just like that. I make use of else if.
where
I
it will
said
work
I
out
always
because
make use of else if, yeah, to so that
It will
my
still work the
conclusions will be stronger.
it will still
well,
work the same way.
of course it is. So
Okay,
now
okay. I
if it
get
is
I
if,
get the other guy's point now. We cannot
so
write else without the bracket now. We just use else bracket open x equal y. We have to use else bracket open and stuff like that, right?
yes, yes. So for the else statement, this is just the default value. That is, if these two conditions are not met, then it should go on to print out whatever we have in
Else,
our else statement.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
That is the
I get.
meaning. The value of else is now equal to the value of y. Equal 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 to the value of y. So now let's go back and run our code. Let's put 5 and 5 again. Then he said the value of x is 5 and is equal to the value of y, 5. So that is if statement. Now, this one is just a simple condition. And you will see in some of our code, they will give us, okay, let me check this. Let me check this particular, okay, this particular task, this fizzballs. Do you know our condition have to be, after checking for the three conditions we are asked to check, there is one particular condition we still need to check for us to have a success, a code that won't have any bug, that we run successfully when we check our checker. When we run the checker.
So we need to do this condition. We need to do this task now.
Of course, we do it. I want us to understand the concept of each statement before we do the task.
Yeah, yeah.
So I said, now, okay, let's read the, what's it called? The second the program that print the number from 1 to 100, followed by a new line. But for multiple of 3 print, from the multiple of 3, print fees instead of the number. And for the multiple of 5, print boss for number. Okay, for number which are multiple of both 3 and 5, print fees boss. That's each number or word should be separated by a space. That is another condition you have to check. You are allowed to use standard library here. Okay. Since we are allowed to use standard library, so we can actually, okay, let's go back. Let's go to that. Let's do the task now. Since we already know what to do, let's do the task. But before we do the task, we've not explained the concept of loop. So we explain the concept of loop first because we actually going to use loop here. And for those that
Yeah.
don't understand what loop means, they might still get
Yes,
it.
let's understand the concept of it, then we'll do that task. Makes it
Thank
easier.
you. Now loop. Now loop. The concept of loop is very simple. And so sorry. So the concept of loop, because it's actually created because we are going to have our code, and that is what programming does actually. What programmer does is they try as much as possible to not repeat a single task in multiple times. Say you understand. Like now, if you
Mm.
are asked to print 1 to 100 now, assuming you are now using printf to print 1, printf to print 2, to print 3, you are going to, in fact, you get tired of it and you later leave it. So we use loop to do something that require us in repetitive things. Once you have anything, you want to write any code that requires to do something in multiple times, just sense that the best thing you need to do there is to loop. Do you get what I mean? Like
Yeah,
once you have a repetitive thing, or you want to have a code that will continue to do the same thing. So the best thing to do is to just loop through that code. As long as that condition is right or is true. Just keep looking through that particular code and print it out as many times as possible. Say you understand, and that is concept of loop. So we have three type of loop. We have while loop, we have while loop, we have for loop, and we have do while loop. Well, most of us believe that the theory can be used interchangeably. Well, for beginners like us, we believe that it can actually be used interchangeably. But for them to have three loops, definitely they have a reason for them to have three different of loops. Because I believe if they are all doing the same thing, then it is we don't really need to have other two type of loop, except we just need to have a single loop. If all what they are all doing is a single things, maybe if they do the
And I
same thing.
also think, sorry, and I also think it's easier using for some particular situation, and it's easier using Y for some particular situation. That's why they use.
Yes, yes, that's true, but that is not actually the concept why we have three loop. The reason why we have three loop is this: we use while loop when we don't know the number of the iteration, when we don't know the n times, when we don't know the n times we are going to run our code, we use while loop. But if we know the n times, then we use for loop. Okay, let me say not knowing, not knowing, make ing, okay, not knowing n times, knowing n times. Now, for do while loop is actually it's more like loop, a while loop. But the only difference is do while loop. We firstly print something out before checking the condition. Like for instance, if you want to print you want to print a number from 0 to 9. If we use while loop, that okay. If we use while loop to print 0 to 9, the while loop we check the condition first that okay is 0 less than 9. It will firstly check that condition. If 0 is not less than 9, it's not going to print it. But for do while loop, even if 0 is greater than 9, eh if 0 is greater than 9, it's still going to print it out first before checking the condition. So it means that do while loop we always print something out first before checking the condition, while loop we always check the condition before printing anything out. Please, do you get the theory, please? Do you get the theory concept?
Yeah, but I want us to actually do practicalize it.
Oh, no problem, we do that before checking conditions.
Someone says she doesn't get, or I think innocent favor says she doesn't get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they send the message.
Yeah.
Okay, let me come again. No, I don't get. Okay, now I said for while loop we use while loop when we don't know the end times our loop is going to run. Like let's take for instance, i want a user to enter a array of character, sequence of character like string, and I don't know maybe their name. For instance, here each everybody's name is different, and the length of everybody's name is different. Like my own name is 5, your own might be 7. So in that kind of situation, I don't actually know the end times of the number of the element that is going to be in the array. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Like, let me come again. Assuming you want to ask a user for their names, and what we want to do with that name is we want to take, maybe for instance, we are organizing an excursion, for instance, and we want the people that their name is they have A to C as their initial name. We want to group them in one particular group, maybe in one room. Say you understand. Now, as a programmer, they ask you to write a code for that will do that. That firstly check all the name of the students, and after checking it, it will group the one that starts with A to C in group one, the one that starts with D to F to group two. So that we need to use loop to firstly loop through all the name of the students. Then after looping through it, you need to find a way of extracting the first character, because we know that the first character is the initial of all the student's name. So we need to find a way of knowing how to extract that initial. So now we don't have a database that consists of comprises of all the students name. So we just create a very simple programming that we ask the user for their name, and they will just type the name, and we store the name in the database so that we can be able to use the name later on. So now the user are typing the name, but we don't actually, and we know we need to look through that particular name to be able to extract the initial form to check whether the name is greater or equals to, whether the name is between the range we want to actually check, maybe A to C, E to F. Somebody want to admit. So what I'm saying in essence is this: so we don't actually know the length of elements that the user or the student is going to enter. So now for that, it is better we use while loop. You understand? We just write a
Yeah.
condition that check that, okay, as long as the user as long as we still have element left in the user name or the string the user is entering, so it should continue looping. And that is how to actually write a condition for that. So, and even for some of us that used to copy code, we see some while loop that we have. Maybe they want to loop through end, and they just say as long as s is not equals to uh, terminator, which is the last. I don't know. Has anyone come across this kind of condition?
Yes,
Yeah.
in one of the examples,
And
for example, one of the tasks.
yes, and what it means is as long as s is not equal to the non-terminator, it should continue looping. So that for that, we don't really need to know the number of elements the user is going to type. So you understand? Because we know that none is the last element in all array of character or string. This is the last element in any string or array of character. And once we've already know that, so we use that one at our own advantage, and we just write a condition that, okay, as long as the element of s is not equal to this, then it should continue looping. So for instance, if I want to look through my name in this kind of condition, and let's say my name is saved in a string, or just let me say name, and I name it maybe let me just call it the now. You know that this thing is just 5 elements. It is just 5 elements, right? But in
Yes.
our memory, we have non-terminator, even though it is not feasible right now. It will represent, we have another one like this. This is how our memory will store this particular variable. It will save it like this in our memory. But we don't need to include it unless you are using the third type I specify when you are declaring a character, the one that you will use curly bracket. You still remember?
Yeah.
Yes, that is when you need to specify the non-terminator. But if you are using other two, you don't need to specify the non-terminator when you are declaring your string or array of character. So now,
Mhm.
so for this, I want to look through this thing now. So I don't really know, maybe for instance, and in my own case, though I had coded this one now. Maybe I want to ask the user and I want to store the name in this particular variable. So I don't know how long the name of the student is. So now we just write a condition that will check that as long as the element in that string is not equal to this, then it should continue looping. And that is the essence of using, that is what while loop is actually designed for. While loop is designed, while loop is actually designed in such a way that we can use it if we don't know the number of time our loop is going to run. It's designed in such a way that if we don't know the number of time our loop is going to run, then we can use while loop. And another thing is while loop. For while loop, we use it for. I think you will remember this thing. We use while loop for any code that is going to run forever. As long as condition is true, it's going to continue running. Do you get it? That
Hmm.
is while loop. But for the for loop, it's depending as I said depending as I said it doesn't understand the what's it called for loop. Okay, innocent. Please, do you understand that before I move to for loop?
Yes, yes, it's
Thank,
clear now.
thank God. So for loop, we use for loop as long as we know the number of time we want to run our code. We use for loop for any loop that we know that we actually know the end times of that particular code. And for the for loop, we use I think this repetition repetition what is repeat yes repeat. So now repeat in the sense that we are looking through a particular maybe an array of character or a condition, and as long as that condition is true, it will stop looping. But before we can use for loop, we must always know the end times. So this one will continue as long as the condition is still true. But once the end time has already run, uh, once our program or code has already run the number we actually specify, then it will just terminate that loop. Please, do you get it? So for instance, now if I want to look through, let's say I want to look through an integer variable, let's say I said int I, even though 30 will not allow us to. I'm just using this thing for example sake. If you want to write a for loop, you must not declare your variable. You must not declare it and initialize it at the same time in your for loop. You have to firstly declare it up, then you can now initialize it inside your for loop. But this one is just for
Abi, can I say something?
yes.
Yeah, in C, we can't initialize and declare
Sign at the same time.
type. Yeah, for C plus plus, you can do it. Even other programs you can do it.
Yes, other programming you can do it. But for C programming, you can't do it.
But C can't do it. So C doesn't
You
So
can't.
have.
now,
Sorry. Please, you can't do what? I was saying
now
something
for
else.
C programming, you can't declare a code
And
and still
initialize at the same
initialize
time.
it at the same time.
At the same
So
time. That's it.
I just write it that way because it's just for example sake. If I want to write it, the best way to write it is to firstly declare I. Then after declaring my high here, so I can now utilize it. I can initialize it or assign a value to it. So
Oh.
that is what I was saying. But
So
in other programming language, you can actually initialize and assign it at the same time.
yeah,
Okay.
Abi,
Abi, there's other thing. I've been waiting to get to this point. There's another thing I
Abi,
want to ask.
Okay.
Abi, see,
Like,
No,
Ola,
please,
let me say something.
somebody is talking. Please let us listen to the person first, please.
Ola,
let me go
Sorry.
ahead.
in this what we just said now, it comes in handy in quiz questions. They might ask you what is wrong with this code, and you might
Okay.
not even see it. Many people assume that you initialize and assign value inside that particular for loop, which is very wrong. That is for C programming, no, but for C plus plus or C sharp, you can do it. Is
Okay. I get your point.
yeah.
But what I was about to ask is this also. If I'm writing a for loop, I'm writing a loop. Like, for instance, for I equals 0, then I is less than 10, I
Huh?
plus plus. There was this particular exercise task we did where I was trying to write I plus plus inside my for loop, but as I was doing rubbish, I had to write it outside the for loop, like at the end of my condition.
No,
So
For
what's
that
the
one is for while
that
loop.
one is while loop.
That one is for
It's
while
while
loop.
loop. It's while loop.
But it should be inside the loop.
so
Oh. It shouldn't be outside
I
the loop.
cannot write the I plus plus inside the while loop.
Of course, because you've already this is the way this is the place you are
You are
required, or
implementing it.
this is the way to this is the place to write your to increment your loop.
Only
But in
for
while
phone.
loop, yes, now but while loop you can actually the way to if you want to increment your while loop, so you have to come here and do something
And
like,
do
let me
name
say
plus plus.
Yes,
yeah.
inside, but it should be inside the loop
So this one will be inside this curly bracket.
bracket. Yeah. If it's
Why this one?
outside, it won't work. Oh.
This one. And another
I
thing
never
before,
even realized that that's the difference between while loop and for loop. Because me, I was thinking for both for loop and while loop, you can increment inside the loop.
no,
No.
no. It's not done that way. So for do while loop, okay, I'm still explaining I'm coming, please. I just want to do while loop. So
Sorry,
now,
small comment about that initializing of I.
okay,
So the initializing of I in the for loop, you can do it in C, but it depends on the standard. So for C99, I think you can do it, but for earlier versions, you can't do it. That's also, so many programmers are used to the earlier versions. That's why they don't initialize it in that for loop. But you can do it in
you mean you can
your
Latest version.
new versions.
you mean you can do it this way?
Yes, in C9.
Well, I've not come across that one, but it's okay now. But I think it is for loop is more concise like this way. Just write it this way. You don't need to. You just know that the code you want it to execute if the condition is true is the only thing that is going to be within your curly bracket. So now that is for loop. Another thing I want to state on for loop is that when you are using for loop, what do I want to say? Oh, I've forgotten.
You are
In
going
for
to do
loop,
well. Sorry.
sorry, I'm coming. I
Mhm.
wanted to say something, but I've forgotten what I wanted to say. Let me continue with do while. If I remember, I will state it. So for do while loop, so we firstly do something like this, like okay, print the value of I, print the value of I as long as y as long as I is less than 10. So if you check very well, the difference between this one and this one is that this one will firstly execute this line of code, whether the condition is true or false. So because our code is checking, our system or our machine is checking the code line by line. So it firstly get to the number 42. And once it gets to the number 42, because we must have already initialized and assigned value to our n, while we are using while loop and do while loop, like saying, okay, int I is equal to 0, for instance. So it will firstly print the first value of I here, which is 0 here, the first checking the condition whether it is true or false. But in while loop, it will firstly check the condition before printing out anything we want it to print. And that is how it works.
Actually, this the do while loop test is just a
I don't understand what you said now, please.
Okay, I said the difference between while loop and do while loop. In do while loop, it will firstly print the first statement before checking whether the condition is true or false. Now I said, okay, let's say for instance, I initialize the value of I to be 0 here. So now it will firstly print the value of 0, the value of I, which is 0 here, before checking if the condition is true or false. But in while loop, it will firstly check the condition before printing anything out. So here we use it in a case whereby you want your code or your program to run something first before checking a condition. So don't worry, as long as you are still in this game, you will get to see a lot of conditions that will require you to
understand.
use while loop,
Yeah.
and you will understand it better. So you
I
get
think we are good to do that other
All
task
right.
now. Do that
now.
task.
So any question on loop before going to the task?
Yeah, please. Why do we have to add that increment? As in, why do we have to increment?
Wow, that is a very good question. But let me, I will throw the question back to you. Like, let's use this do while loop as an example. What I simply want my code to do is to print 0 to 9 here. But here I initialize the value of, I initialize the initial value of I to be 0. So if I know that this line of code will firstly print the initial value of O before going to check this condition. Let's now say the I is not there. You know, your code is going to run, but something will happen. So you are going to run into what we refer as infinite loop, because every time, if you don't have increment here, our I will remain 0, and every time it's checking, I 0 will always be less than 10, and that way we won't have any escape condition to exist this particular loop. So our loop will run to our memory or to our mentioned class. So now, but when you increment, when you say I plus plus here, means that after printing this one, to post increment I, then assign the value back to I. So now I is 0 up to here. Here he add 1 to I to be 0 plus 1. So now I is equal to 1. But don't get it wrong. When we are doing recursion, that is what most people get wrong. Some still don't understand what pre-increment and post-increment means. But I will try to explain. Here, our I is still 0 here. But most of us will believe that our I is 1. But here, our I is still 0. Our I will be 0 until it get to this particular line 47. And once it check our line 47, our even till here, our high is still 0. Then after checking this condition, then it will now add 1, because we use post increment. It will now add 1 to our I, and I will now become 1 for the next iteration. So when I now get to here back, so I will now become 1 instead of the previous 0. But before it check the value of I, our I will still remain 0. And that is what most people do not understand. But if I use post increment here, let's say I use the increment here, it means that it will increment I by 1 and assign the value immediately. That is the difference. It will increment I and assign the new value to I immediately, and that is pre-increment. So here we
I
are
don't
going.
get it. I don't get.
Okay. Let me
No,
come.
basically it's just the difference between I plus plus and plus plus I. I don't get.
Yes, I know. I will. I want to have the two. So here, our high is equal to 0 here.
Yes.
So now, when we say I plus plus, what we mean is to add 1 to our I, right? To add 1 to the initial value of I, which is in this case will be I plus 0 plus 1, right?
No,
Now,
is this plus plus I or I plus plus?
yes, no, the two simply means we are increment in the two cases.
But I'm writing this.
We are increment by 1. Okay, sorry, I didn't see that. So it will be like this. So
Okay.
so it means to add 1 to our I. But here we are using pre-increment. Pre-increment simply means to assign the value immediately. While post-increment means assign the value after after. Let me just put it that way. Assign the value after. Now let me now explain. Here our I is equal to 0. Here it will assign 1 to it will increment I by 1, and our I will become 1 here. So because we are using pre-increment, the I, that new value which is 1, will immediately be assigned to the value of I here. But here the value of I will also become 1, but it will not assign the value of the new value, which is 1, to this I at this moment until the next iteration, until you check this value. It will read this particular stage, and after checking this value, it will now add the new value. But if you are using pre-increment, so after printing is 0, our high will become 1 immediately.
So inside the loop, it will first check 1.
Yes, I will. Don't worry, I will write a single code. I will write a single code. I will check that one. But the person that asked that, why are we using increment? Why are we incrementing our I? Please, do you understand now?
Yeah,
We
thank
are
you.
incrementing so that we won't run into what we refer as infinite loop. So that we have a case base, just like in recursion, you must have a case, a base case that will terminate your loop. If you don't have a base case, you are going to run into infinite loop, and your system will crash.
Abib, can I help the guy that
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah, 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 yeah,
with
yeah.
pre and post increment? Someone that asked question on pre and post increment. Now
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
take line 44. Abib, that line
Yeah.
44.
Yes.
Yeah, that line 44 is pre-increment. Line 44, pre-increment. It
Yes.
means that it will increase the value of y of that I by 1 before checking the condition. Before checking any condition below it. Abib,
Yes.
you can run a code with it so that they will
Of course,
understand
I
it.
will do that.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
let's run a
Please,
code with it and see the
now
difference.
do you all understand loop now? While loop,
Yes.
for loop, and do while loop, and the reason why we have the tree loop. So
Yes.
anytime you have a loop that you don't really know the end time or the length of that particular array or array of character, just use while loop. But if you know the number, if you know the end time, so just use for loop. And if you want your code to run first before even checking the condition, then use do while loop. So now let's simply check the concept of pre-increment and post-increment.
I think that the condition will make them understand it better.
Yes, 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 yes. Just be quick, you don't want to finish. Now, let's say we have two integer we have integer x and we insert the value of, let's say, 2, for instance. And now, let's first different. Let me different. I want to print x. Now, I want to initialize another. Okay, let me just say s, y, z. Then I want my x to be equals to 2. So now, I want my y. I want my y to be equals to x plus plus. Yes, x plus plus. Okay, let me firstly use pre-increment. Now, I want to print the value of x and y. Hmm. Okay. Now, I assign the value of x to be 2, and I want y to be value of x plus 1. But I'm using pre-increment here. Now, the results we are going to get here, should I state it before running it so that I can
So run it, just run it. Let's
run
see.
it? Okay, okay, okay. Then I will, let's call it make variables. We have 3 3. Sorry, let me go and I don't know why I always forget the line. But let me use the line for the two. I want it to be a different one. What is this again now? Hey, we have 3 3. So now, why do we have 3 3 here? X is 2 here, but we increment the value of x by 1 here. So here, our x, since this is the x we are incrementing, the new value will be assigned to x immediately here. So our x will be 3 here. And here, our value is also 3 because the value of x is what is pre-incremented here. And the pre-incremented means assign the new value immediately. Increment and assign the new value immediately. But if we use, let's say we use, if we use x plus plus, which is post increment, the value of y here will be 2, while the value of x will be 3. Let us run it and I will explain why. Can you see it? The value of x is 3, while the value of y is 2. Now, this is the reason. Some people used to get this wrong when like they will be expecting x to still remain 2. But you should understand that we are incrementing x itself. And once we increment here, it means that it's just like the same way we can assign a new value to any variable we've already declared. Let's say, okay, now for instance, we declare our x to be 2 here. If I set x to be 5, you know that if I print x, the new value will be what? Will be 5.
Right.
Do you get it? That is what we are doing here. When we say x plus plus, in fact, without assigning it to any variable, we do the same thing. I just say x plus plus. So if we assign 1, it will add 1 to the initial value of x. And that is why we are having 3 here. Because we are assigning a new value to the initial value of x. So that is why we have 3 in x. And for the y, here we are having 2 because we use post increment. So here, the value of x has already been incremented by 1. And that is why we have 3 here. But that new value has not been assigned to the value of y just yet. Please do you get it?
Okay.
The value
I get your point now. I do get it.
so the value of y still remains 2, but the value of x has been incremented. But that new value is not yet assigned to the value of y because we are using post increment, which means to assign the value after, not now. Do you get it? But for the
Yes, I
case
do.
of pre-increment, it means
Yes.
y. Okay, let me now say it. I want you understand this
That
now.
means, excuse me. So
Okay.
that means if I'm doing a while loop and
Yes.
I use a pre-increment
Yes.
before the while loop,
Yes.
my condition will be checking. Let's say my variable is 0,
Yes.
and I do a pre-increment on that variable.
Yes.
When it checks in the loop, the first assignment it will give to the loop is the addition of 1.
No.
No, like
No.
if I do a pre-increment, I'm talking if I do a pre-increment.
Let me write it out so that let's say in I is equal to 0, and just say as long as I less than 10, I use
We
pre-increment.
cannot we cannot declare a variable inside the for
No,
loop.
no, 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 no. For just for example's sake now, don't worry now.
Okay.
So now here, I want you to use this one to explain. You know, this thing is going to run 10 times, right?
Yes.
Now, for the first loop, our high is still going to be 0 because this last condition is not going to be assigned, it's not going to be executed until the first loop is completed. In while loop, people used to in while loop it is that one is actually it is very clear in while loop because you know that you are incrementing after you've already
Yes, yes.
but the same thing is going on in for loop. So this is the two things our for loop is going to check first, and after running the first loop, that is when it will come back and increment the value of the increment it.
But if I do the same thing, if I do I plus plus, it's still the same thing it will do.
Of course, we are going to get the same result. Of course, we get 0 to 10 because our high here is equal to 0 and I less than 10. So you firstly go and print the whatever we ask it to print here, and after print it, the value of I is already 1 because that's already pre-incremented. So the value of I is now check the second value. Don't get it wrong. Because it is pre-incremented doesn't mean that the value of O is not going to be O, because it is not going to check this last statement. It's not going to execute this last statement until you run the first loop, and that is the reason. Assuming it's going to check everything at once before checking the whatever we ask him to execute here, then the value of I here will be 1. Do you understand now?
Okay.
Abib,
So
Abib,
in
you can
one
tell
word,
him that. Hello?
Two people are
You
talking
can
at the same time.
okay, sorry. I said for for convenience sake, you can just tell him that uh, in this for loop,
Yeah.
I equal to 0. The first two conditions are first tested.
Yes.
The first
That
two
is
conditions are first tested. That plus plus runs after
after.
it must have printed. Yes, after it must have printed. So it goes back
Thank
to
you. That is what I actually said. Thank you very much.
okay.
mm-hmm.
So please, do you all understand it now?
Yeah, we do now. I understand.
Now, if you understand it, please can you tell me what the value of said will be here?
What?
Wait, I'm coming. The value of x and said here. I want to. What's the value of x and said here? And said rather
Okay, what the value of x
and
and
said
z?
yes in
X
this
is
third in
2.
this line 10. X is what?
It will be 3 3 now.
Said will also be 3.
For
Yes.
pre-increment.
No, now I'm asking you.
For z, yes, it will be 3 3.
This if you support him or if you agree with him, please let me know so that we can know what to do. Who else accept that it's going to be 3 3?
Is the Y among? Or is it, are you testing
Yes, yes,
from
yes. You are testing from here to here.
okay, you're testing from
Okay,
X to Z,
sorry,
right?
sorry, hey, sorry. I didn't add the y. I didn't know that the y is part of it. Oh,
Okay, why is
sorry.
part of it now?
I thought
What is the
okay,
value?
y is part of it. Sorry, let me take a look at it. I thought like probably we are taking out y. We were just taking x and
Now
z.
no problem. Now you
Okay,
know what is the value of x and y.
sorry.
X
If
and
that's the
x and
case,
z rather.
y is going 3 2. And it's going to be
I'm with you. Just fine too.
it's going to be 3. I think it's going to be 3 4 now.
It's
Yeah.
going to be 3 4.
3 4 4
Yeah.
formation.
Anybody else, please?
3 4.
What is the value of x here? X and z. Said 3 4. Who else agree? Okay. You said 3 4. What will the value of x and y be here in the second line? What the value of x and y be here?
Yeah, x is going to be 3.
What
Y is going
I
to
thought
Eh?
y is going to be 2. Y is going to be 2. X is
Y
going to
going,
be 3.
y going to be 2.
Yes.
Okay. So please, who is talking? Okay. Okay. Who else agree
for,
with him? Please let me
for
know.
Y.
Who else agree with him? This
No.
line 10 is what I'm actually concerned with right now. So this line 10, what is it going to be for our x and z?
For X and Z, it should be 4 4 now.
4 4.
Another person said 4-4. So any contrary opinion? We have 3-4, we have 4-4. What again? Let me just write 3-4. 3-4, 4-4. Okay. The person that
From
said
your
3-4.
initial example, I'm beginning to think 4 is actually correct again.
Now you are
Example.
confused.
I'm
You are
thinking.
not
I'm thinking
confused.
back to when you start. No, it's not. It's not me being confused. It's me remembering what you did initially,
Okay.
like
So
your
the,
explanation
the
at the
correct the
initial
correct
point.
answer is actually
Remember you
4-4.
doing this thing X and Y initially, and when you
Yes.
did the implementation, it was 3-3.
Okay. Please, if you don't understand why it is 4-4, please let me know, please. It is the answer is 4-4. If you don't understand why it is 4-4, please let me know. You want to go and do the task, quiz box task. If you don't understand why
Let,
it is 4-4
let
here,
me
let me
give
know.
an explanation of why I think it is 4-4, so that
No,
you will tell me
I
that.
want if anybody don't understand, we need to know first, so that well, no problem. You can just go ahead and explain that we can save ourselves time.
So initially X is 2. When we did
Yes.
a post implementation with Y here, X becomes 3 and Y remains 2.
Yes.
Then now we're doing a pre-implementation in Z with X. That makes the value of X change to 4. Like since the pre-implementation now, X will now be
Yes.
4 and the value of Z is also now be 4.
Thank you very much. I believe we all understand the concept of pre-increment and decrement now. I believe we all
Yes.
understand it now. So
Yes.
now, let us now put what we've been learning and what we've learned. Let us put into use now. We want to do this fistbox, and we are going to do it together. Together. Okay, six. See here. Okay, it's here. And we are going to use putchar. Do you all know that we actually have a function called putchar in our library? We have putchar itself. We have putchar like this. Which also do the same thing with our this that putchar does. Do you all know? Do you
Yeah,
all know, please? Do you
yeah.
know we have a putchar function that do the same thing this putchar does?
Yeah, it makes a big character. Yeah.
Yes. So we are going to use that one. But we're actually in function, they said we can actually use model. We can use, okay, we are allowed to use standard library, so don't let us stress ourselves. So now we want to write, how can we write a code? The first thing, we need to break this thing down. The first thing we first need to get done is how to print 1 to 100. So now, what are we going to do, please? What is the first thing to do here? What do you want me to do it? I want us to do it together, actually.
Abi,
Yes?
Abi, making 1 to 100, if we're making use of feature,
It
if
won't,
you
it,
start printing, yeah, if you make use of feature here, if you
there
start
is
printing, I think that if you start printing the active value of that, it even print the number itself.
don't worry. There's a way we can actually do it. There's a way we can do it that we print 2 letters at the same time. And what
Okay,
we need to do is, you do know that once it gets to 10, it will start
yes,
printing 0 again
ABCD,
instead
yeah,
of 10. And instead of
yeah.
11, it will print 1. Instead of 12, it will print 2. Instead of 13, it will print 3. So it means that it is actually removing the first element, isn't it?
No, my own is just that it will start printing ABCD from you. I swear.
No, not ABC. See, they are not printing hexadecimal. They are using,
Future,
they are printing.
future will print ABCD for me if I try not to use of it. But if I
Yes,
use
it will
it
print.
myself,
Yes. It will print APD to set because it is printing out what it is
yeah,
character, but it depends
yeah,
on what you actually do. If you there's a way you can convert it. I think I actually explained that one in the group this morning that
is it that
if you
plus
want to,
48
yes, plot zero.
plus
So
0?
Yes.
But
And
even
the
if I
zero
make
will
use
be
of even if I make use
uh,
of plus zero, it will not work. So let's see now. Let's see.
Eh?
if you don't use that one, it will not print it.
I should type on it then.
I don't know. I tried make use of it, but still
Let me do it this way. Don't worry. Let me just print. Let me print. I want to print 5. I want to use putya to print 5. Let's see if it work out. You see the string character with it. Why am I always forgot this new line? New line. You see the character I print out for us, and it is very very simple. And it's just because picture only prints out character. So anytime you are passing integer, you must find a way of converting that integer to a character. And I said the way you can do is by adding this 0. We know that anything that is in a single quote is what is a character. So this will convert this digit, it will convert it to character. And we know if you understand ASCII table very well, you will know that all elements, all characters, all elements, all number, all value we have in ASCII table are actually characters. Whether it is integer, whether it is symbols or character itself, they are all characters. So now this will convert this particular integer, it will convert it into a character, and it will print the right value we want. Can you see it now? Please, do you all understand what I just explained? So
No,
anytime,
no.
Yes.
no,
Yeah.
Come again.
okay. This putya function only print out character. Like now, for instance, if I want to print out a character, let me just print character here. Let me print, and we know that character always been a single quote. So this will print out without me. I need to put a new line so that you can. I want them to be on a separate line. Can you see it now? The first one prints R. Why this one print 5? Now, this one print 5 because we've already find a means of converting this integer into, if I don't convert it to an integer, if I don't convert it to character rather, it's going to just print out a value. I don't even understand what it, which is this one.
Abi,
Yes, this value, you know, I pass 5 there. It prints out this value because 5 in our ASCII table is among non-printable characters. We check from 1 to, I think from 1 to 9. Let me check the ASCII table. I want to show us something. This ASCII table, you see that the printed one started from where? It starts from 033 all the way to 127 or 225. If you are printing this one, it's end at 225. So now from the 0, there is value in 0 to 32 too, but all those values are just non-printable one. So if you print any value within that range, it's going to print this kind of character that you don't even understand what it is. It will just print it out for you.
Abi,
Yes.
my question is, you need put 5
Yes.
plus 5 plus character 0. Can I
Yes.
do 5 plus character 10 or any character I like? Any thing?
No, 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 no.
It
I
must be
think no,
0.
no, 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 no. I think you can use 10 too. Let me try that. Somebody said they've tried it before and it worked out, but I've never tried it. We are here to explore, so let's try it now. And I want to check something. I want to know if I don't since our preacher is expecting a character, I don't really need to. If I don't do this thing in single quote, I want to know if it's going to print out too. Wow, it's not going to print out. And the second one too, we have a warning for multi-character constant. So for this one,
Make it 2. Make it 2. I'm just testing some
no, it's okay.
experimenting.
It's okay. It's actually okay now. Let us use two. Somebody actually tell me something else. I don't know. Well, I think this one want to work. Two. Do you see what happened? It add 2 to the 7 to the 5, and it give us 7. So any value
Oh,
will work, but it will add it. It will do the addition of it instead of conversion you want to actually do. You get it?
oh,
Instead
yeah, I
of doing
guess.
the conversion, it's just add the 2 to it.
So because it was 0, that's why I printed 0. It
Yeah,
printed 5.
yes. So I think 5 is the right thing to use. So now that is the concept of picture. What?
Yeah, Abib, I
Yes.
have a question.
Okay.
So with the first future, this one, the R, if I decide to add maybe plus 0, as you did, will it also convert it to a figure or a
You
number
don't
or
really
what?
need to. You don't really need to do that because what you're actually passing here is a character, and what Future is expecting is character. We converted it there because we are putting integer when it is expecting character. That is why we find a way of converting it. But this one, I think it will work, but we don't really need to add it since we know that it's going to work without even adding it. It doesn't work. Oh. That means
Uh, Abib, try
yes.
printing out one. That's why I said that the picture issue was giving me issue until I started using print. I mainly make use of picture if I want to give a space or if I want to give out than numbers less than them.
Then
If I want to give out space, if I want to give out column, all these things,
I
picture makes
understand,
it easier. But
but
printing out long barrels of numbers, I
yes.
don't think that picture is recommended there.
Picture is not recommended, but we are being required. So we are being
Okay,
compared
can
to
you
it.
print? Okay, can you print 100 there? Use picture to print 100, number
I can
100.
I can that is what I want to explain. Now, what I will do is what do I want to do? I want to print 100. And I know that my picture can only print one character at a time. It
Yeah,
is either I look through this thing, but in the case whereby I want to look through 1 to 100, so now 1 to 100, I know at a point it will get to two integer like okay 10, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it will just be printing the first element, the second element for me, and it will be removing the first element because it can only print one character at a time. So what you do is you will use you will find a way of extracting the first value. We use this one like let's say for instance, let's say int n is equal to 100 for instance. What I will do to print 100 is to firstly I will say okay, I want n remainder remainder 10, which I know is going to give me last digit. This one will give me last digit. You know it's going to give me last digit.
yeah, the modulo 10, I know.
Yes. So I get last digit here. So I will still find another way to extract the first character, and I will use divided by 10. And if you don't understand the reason why this work, let us quickly do it so that you will understand. Now, if I want to print it now, what I will just do is I will come to my picture here. Let's say I want to print it. Let me use this one now. I'll just say I just say n remainder n remainder 10 n remainder 10 I'll still say plus. Remember that we are still converting it. We are still converting the integer. We are converting it to
Yeah,
character.
I know, I
So
know.
we have to
I
add this one. So
know.
this one will give us last digit, but we want first digit here, so it will be divided by. And we want to print n, the value of n itself here. So just pass n, then we just add 0 to it here. And for the last one will now be put then it will be n percentage 10 and say plus 0. This is how to
Wait,
this is how
so that line 12, explain that line 12.
line 12. The line 12 we print the actual here. I want to print 100, right? And I know my printer can only print one figure at a time. Now, here I want to print the first value, which is 1. Here I want to print the last value, which is 0. This first 0 here. Let me change it to 100 so that let me change it to 102 so that we have different value. So this one we print 1.
How will you print one?
I will explain. This one we print 0, and this one we print 2. Now, the reason why this one we print 1 is this. Let's say the number we have is 102. 102 divided by 10. What is the answer? Please. It will have 102 divided by 10. 10 in on that is 10. 10 remainder 2, right? 10 remainder 2.
Yes.
Yes.
So the 10 will be our this 10 will be our what's it called?
And
First value. You get it? This 10 because it won't take note of the decimal point or the decimal
Yes.
place. So it's going to print out the 10. But we know that our picture cannot still print that 10. So you understand? And that is why we extract the last value. The last value here. So now this one will just be 1 like that.
I don't
I
still
don't know if
understand though.
you just still
Run
understand.
it. Just run it.
Wait,
Let's see. Just run.
wait.
Run.
I want to this thing. Do you understand how it gives us the first digit?
We understand the first day and the last digit, but if you do it now, it should print 10. So why is it printing just one only? But run it first. Let's see.
Okay,
Let's see why.
let's
They think it's work like that, but check. Run it back. You
wow.
see?
One
I
zero
have
two.
tried, I have tried this thing. Like I have
Okay.
tried it over and over and over. It will not work. That
Wait,
was why I
wait,
said,
wait, wait. Let's analyze it again. We want to print three value. This first one, let's say it was at 10. We extract 10, the first which is the first digit here, the 10. And this one, this one we print the remainder. So this one, the value of this one will still be 2. So here, I think maybe the reason why because I've used this thing in my loop before and it worked out. And if we have two digits, I will just print the first digit and the last digit and it will print out. I think it's because we are not looking through the elements. Because we are looking through it, oh, it's just going to work like this. Let us think about it because I think I've used something like this before and it worked out. Even for the two elements. We want to print two elements. Let me check. I want to check something, please. I want to check a task we are asked to print number more than 10. I think it should be here. Okay. Here we are asked to print 100 print points. I want to check how I did my this thing. Why this thing is not loading? Let's go. Let's go. 100. Let me just see. Okay. I want to check what I did. Put share digit on remainder 10. Hello. Share digit remainder 10. 0. Okay. Yeah. Find out something. Let me try it first. Maybe you can make sense of that later. Let me just print as I think. Let's try this first.
Honestly, this food stuff is just very unnecessary. Don't get it.
Don't worry, you don't need to. You get
I don't
to
want to know it.
see the
I'm
value you
not
get.
going to lie
You
about
get
that.
to why?
I don't want to know it.
No, no, no. You need to learn how to use it now. What of if
What do I want to use for? As a programmer,
what
you're able
of
to know.
if
How
you go
many
to an
programmers? Can't
if
ask
you
you programmers. Most of
if
them
you
don't use Kuta. What
if
are
you
you
go
doing
to
for?
if you go for an interview and they are asking you how you can use Putia to print 2 digits,
I
what
will
are
just
you
tell them the basic knowledge I have about Puta. That's all. Pretend they're easy. What are you using Puta for? God, this kind
no,
of.
I want to.
And this AMX people, they are overdoing this thing. Don't need Puta by
It's
force.
actually nice that way now. They are pushing us beyond our this thing. So they want us to
No.
be expanded so that I don't know why this one is doing this, but all this.
Hello, Abib.
Yes. I'm
Try
with
using
you.
100 and let's see.
To use
Did
100.
you get the first number using 10?
No, let me see.
Since you are using 3 digits
Yeah,
now.
that's a
I print. Okay, let me print
If you're
11.
using 2 digits, it will be very, very easy.
If
If
you are
you're
using two
using
digits, 10 will work. If it's 3 digits, 100 should work.
Okay, let's try this one first. So this one want to print the print
if it's two
2 second
digits
now.
now, this should work. It should work now. It will print 11.
Wow. It print
Normally,
11
it prints 11. Yeah.
now. So you said I should make it instead of 10 to make it 100, right?
Yes, if it's three numbers, that if it is 100,
Okay.
100 modulus 100 will give you 0, Abi.
Yeah.
101 modulus 100 will give you the last number.
Change, change that M to 102. Let's see. Let's go back to
I should change it to one word.
102 now, our normal value.
Okay.
Yes,
One.
102.
Now, what? as you change this to 100, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that will give you the 1. That will give you 1.
And this one will give me 2, right?
That will give you the last number, I think.
Then what will give us the middle number?
Uh,
Give us the middle number.
And what will give us the middle number is n divided by n mode 102. Right.
N mode 102.
Yes. No, don't put it in bracket now. N mode 102. Clean the RAM bracket. Because that one should give us the
okay.
Let's try it
No,
first.
n modulus for it will not work, but I think I've gotten it. Run it first. Okay,
Got it now.
wait. Is that the last number?
Yes,
the
now 2
middle
is the last
number.
number.
But you want to print it one by one now. Is that not
Just put
what you
new
want?
Yes,
line.
it's printed
Just put,
one. It's printed one by one. Now we are having 3. If I want to,
just put new line. Abib.
Okay, let me have it.
Just put new line there so you will see it. So it works. But if I'm very work.
But I believe there is another way to do this.
Abib,
If you want to use
this is
Pucha,
what
this is
you
what
do.
you have to do.
Have you tried printing three digits before? It's just 2 digits that will do things. So we don't learn at 102. See? Perfect.
So
Is that one okay? That was 102. Yes, perfect. Yes.
We made use of the front one because the module are there to give us the that's the visible.
okay, I want to check this one. I'm stepping. You can detect if you discount the 2 less than 9 is the 1 for the 2 is equal to the 1 plus 1. Okay, the 2 less than 10 the 2 plus plus. Now said the 1. Okay. Do you know what? Do you know why we didn't get it actually? I saved the 2 value. I said the D1 and the D2 in different value. And I extract the like here. If the value is, let's say if the value is 100, the value is 100. The D1, which will be the D1, the D1 here will be what? Will be that 10. So it will extract the first value, the first
The
value,
last value.
the last value rather. So which is in this case I think it's 0, right?
It won't
For
work now.
the D2, I'm coming. I want to check what is going on here. So for the D2, if
I think
the D2 is equal to the
it
D1
will
plus
work.
1, wait, we got a condition here. Let us check it out now.
Sorry. Look at the meaning of your main loop. I don't think it is what you are trying to solve, because your main loop is saying your main function rather is saying print combination of 2 digits, not 3 digits.
Okay,
So this is not the function.
this is not the function. So this one is if I want to print 11, so I will just extract the first one, the first digit. So the last digit will be 1, and 1 it's just with 1 in that cell, and the second one will just be 1 too.
Yeah. So this is for normal 2 digits.
This is just normal. I think we did one that
This
will
one
print
is
it.
2 digits now. It's simple.
Is there? Oh,
Abib,
this is the one. Wait, I'm coming. Let me check this 101. I want to know how we can actually go about that. Let's say from 101. Wow. We are using. Can we try this, please? Before we go to the main function, let's try this, please. I want to find out if we use percentage.
Come on, man.
That is programming for you.
That is
Come on.
ALX for you.
That's the ALS for us.
Honestly, there are some very needless things in some programming languages.
This is not needless. So
Go ask the programmers. How many of them use this stuff? There are better ways and easier ways.
no, not that there are not easier ways, but the reason why they are making us use Pucha now, if you do not use
You want
Pucha for
us
this
to know
task,
how to create all this function?
Yeah, if you
You
not
just
use
want
poacher
us
for
to
this task, you would not know how to get the last digit of a number. You would
just to
not know
get
how
it.
to get the first digit of a number. So those small things, you might think, but when you're solving another task now, if they say you should find the last digit of that number, since you've solved this task already, you know how to solve the last digit of the number.
Yeah.
So those small things add up over time.
Okay. I understand you now. I understand what you are trying to say. Like, okay, getting the first digit and the last digit, right?
Yes.
So
So
all these
so
things in the put in the bracket of this picture are the digit of that of the number, right?
good,
The
good.
three
So
things they want us, okay.
look
Talk,
at
talk.
this suffering as a means to an end. Like the task they are making you do to go over and beyond to solve a particular task so that you can
That is it.
understand some
You can
underlying
understand.
concepts.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I get your point now.
The three thing they want us to learn here is they want us to know how to print last digits, first digits, and how to convert character to an integer here. So those are the three things they want us to understand by giving us this kind of task. So I think we've explored enough. Let us go back to our if statement and follow, and then call it a day.
Have you understood that three digit stuff?
Don't
That
worry,
one.
don't worry. We are going to. I think we are going to see. We are going to get there now. Maybe when we are doing nested loop, we find a way of going through that one so that we can understand it. So when we are through with this one, I will try to check. I will look through it again and see if I can make sense.
After this one, I don't go sleep. Oh. We
And
have
now after
but
this, let us just do this thing. So now, what should we use? Now, my people, please, what
please,
should we use? We know that we
please,
want to
reduce.
look.
No,
Yeah,
I,
we want to
I
look
think
through. Yes.
I think just share your screen so that we'll be seeing the question and what you are doing.
I should share my screen.
Just share it into two, yeah, so that your terminal will be one side, your the question should be
Okay,
one
okay,
side.
okay, 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 okay. Let me remove some of the things I'm not using.
Use Windows left and right. That will split your screen to.
Left and right.
Yeah, Windows left arrow key, Windows right arrow key.
Oh, somewhere low. Look at this.
These
See this
people
one.
here.
No? They
Wow,
don't see
thank you. I've never, I've never find out on that before.
I never
Thank
see
you,
a football
thank
right
you,
now.
thank you, boss. Okay, now let's do our fist busters and let us call it again. The fist bust. Where is the task again?
Part eight.
Number 8.
Is it eight or no nine? Take nine.
It's not 9. Oh. This is 9.
Go down.
I think have I not left the place we were before? OS01 ifs. This is where we were before. Where is this thing now? Ah,
It's not this part though.
then we start again.
Uh,
No function nested even.
take function.
No, I think we know what we want to do now. What is this? I can't find it again. It's a Fibonacci, all this thing.
Hmm.
We just saw it now.
Oh, yeah, now I don't know.
But we know what we want to do now. We just want to print from 1 to 100. 1 to 100. So now what are we going to use? Since we know the end time, so we can just use for loop, right? Right?
Yeah, you can make use of follow will work.
Okay. And that is the best loop we should use since we already know
Okay,
our.
it
That is
is
what I'm trying.
more functions. That's why you see it more. Check more functions, more functions,
Pointer, more function, more
more
nested.
functions. Yeah, yeah. It will be there. That thing na more thing, no be normal thing. It will be there. Easy but yeah, you don't pass am up ahead.
So now this condition, if you are printing from 1 to 100, that means 100 is inclusive. So I just said less than or equals to 100, and some can use less than 101. So we get the same result. But I think
Yeah.
less than or equal to 100 is small function. I want to increment plus 1. Now, now for the multiple of, we've already stated that we first need to, the last condition that tests two conditions at the same time is what we first need to do. So we are going to write an if statement. I check and people like, okay, if n remainder, what's it called? If n
Wait,
remainder
let's
three.
wait. Let's understand multiple of three. What's
I've,
the
I've,
multiple of three?
I've explained those ones before. The multiple
Okay.
of three is any number that can go in three without any remainder. So
Yes.
the multiple, we write it this way. Multiple of three of any number is any number that its remainder will give us any number that three can go into it without any remainder. So that is the multiple
Okay.
of three.
Okay. Go to
And
your line 10. You made a mistake.
like what?
Line 10. Line 10. Your line 11. If n is equal to 1,
Yes.
you use I less than. Should it be
Okay.
I or n?
N, sorry. Actually, I wanted to use n. Let me use I. I is more common because we are printing it. So that we use I or counter. And let's turn this one to I.
Mm,
Let us use. So for the multiple of 5, we just be n, I mean that 5
both 5 equal to 0.
is
Yeah.
0. So that is the condition we want to test. So now we just say if n, or if I rather,
If
if
I mod
I
3
mod 3
equal to 10 equal to 0
equals to
and
0, and
um,
I modulus 3 modulus 5 equals to 0.
mhm. Then
So
inside
we want to print
use printf
this
usable.
is now.
Continue. Use continue down so that you move to the next one. Continue.
Continue like what?
Break will end the statement now. Continue will take out for the rest. You make
we
it
don't
of
use
continue.
we don't use it in that case. I will explain it. So now if I remainder 3 equals to 0, then we want to print
Please.
this. Yes. And else
Else
if
if again.
else if I module 5 is equal to 0, then we want to print
Four.
yeah. Now for the s, just want to print what? Want to print I. If it is not, if it is not multiple of 3 or multiple of 5, we just want to print the number,
Okay.
right? So we just put I here. Now let us read the question again. The second typewriter and print the number from 1 to 100, followed by a new line. But for multiple of 3, print fees instead of the number, and for multiple of 5, print boss. If for print boss. For number which are multiple of both 3 and 5, print fees boss. Is that each number or what should be separated by a space? You are allowed to use the standard library. You are allowed to use standard library. So there is now we've already done what they asked us to do. And for the new line, they said after this, just print new line. So we can just print F here. We
What
just
of
print,
what of the space?
yes, that is what I want us to think about how we can go about that. And that is where if statement. That is where we use if statement. So now, how can we put space between all these values? How can we put space between?
To me, I will use Kucha to do it.
Yeah. So
Yes.
where are we going to put it to?
Kucha should be after testing the condition before the new line.
Before the new line.
Yes.
So are we going to indent it or not? But we can actually use printf too. If you can use okay, you can use
Use
pushtel, we can,
Kucha. Yes.
as you use pushtel, right?
Yes. Then quotation mark inside, then space. Space
Okay.
between the quotation mark. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that all?
I don't think there's any other thing.
Okay. Let's go and run our code to see something. Make variable. What again? Ah, this thing. Just have to use pushtel. You didn't tell me to use single quotes. You are using double quotes.
Okay, single quote, sorry.
It's normal now. Now, this is what we have, but we don't want this one. So the new lines will come. New lines will come after our loop.
Yes, after the loop.
Let me now. You know our checker will fail here because after this bus, it's still going to have space there. Do you know that?
Yes, 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 yes.
So how can we do that? How can we get rid of that?
Okay, go back to the condition now. You should stop it at the condition.
Hey, that is why I said you can actually use if statement.
Yes, put if then before the pucha.
Okay. I- if what?
Uh, if the last statement there is uh, ah, my head don't full.
Oh
Mm,
yeah, now people should talk now. We are more than this in this meeting. So
we are many in this meeting. No,
so
nobody will talk here.
people are not talking. Why? People are not
So
talking.
I've been talking to Breeze actually. I didn't know my mic was off.
Yes.
So so I was saying,
This guy is funny.
what were you saying again? Sorry.
Okay,
So we want
uh,
to we want
Abib,
our yeah,
Abib, since we
yes,
know our last this thing, since
yes.
we know our last.
Yes.
The last one, the last one, 100 gave us what? Balls or gave us bees, right?
Yes.
I don't get your question. Can you guys just come again?
What we want to do is this. We've already checked the result of our code, and this is what we get. And now this space is going to be added to this last element, and we don't want this space to be there. So what can we do?
We don't
Because
have which
if
space?
this space is going to, because we are having space in between all these values, so definitely space is going to be here too.
Okay,
So
okay.
if you check the word count, so it's going to be more than the actual word count that is supposed to be. So if it's supposed to be 100, so it's going to be 101.
Oh, so that space makes it 101.
Yes, yes. So how can we get rid of it?
Go back to the
So
and I will change the number of this thing now.
what? To 99.
The yes, now the for loop. We'll
If you
change
change
the
it, if
iteration.
you change it to 99, it won't print the last statement, which is boss for us, because the last statement, this is 99, this is 100, and we want to print up to 100 itself. So if you put 99, it's not going to print this one.
Yeah.
Yes. So there is something we can do.
Okay. Okay, see what you do. Do I less than 101?
Okay, for the
Yes. Go to the condition
Yes,
now.
not less than or equal to.
No,
101.
no, just use less than 101. Yes. I less than 101.
Okay.
Not equal
No,
to a hand.
no,
So what do you
no.
think will happen?
Wait now. Less than 101. Then go to our if
Nothing good.
statement.
Okay.
Pick our if statement. That if statement, the last condition I want to take.
Okay.
Now, see what we do. See, if
Okay.
I is greater than, so the last value there is 100,
Yes.
greater than 100.
Okay. What do you want to do?
Wait, let me get something.
If it's greater than 100, what do you want to do?
Mm, mm.
I want us to think now. What do you want to do?
Sorry, I just came in. What is printing your space in your code?
Eh?
What is printing your space, like the spaces between the numbers?
Yes. We've already
I
done
don't
that.
know.
But
Um,
what we want to do is
okay,
the
you've
last,
done that
yes,
already.
yes, yes. The last space
What
here.
if
We
we
don't
don't
want the
just
last space to be there. Let's go back to what we had
So
before.
what is printing the 1, 2, 4, 5? Okay, you've done it already. You are just doing a new Abby,
Yes.
or am I the
Already,
one getting confused?
please stop. Already done it. What we are just trying
Okay,
to
what you are
remove
focusing on now is
the
this
last
buzz.
the last space
Removing the
here.
buzz.
We want to remove the last space that will be after this box. We want to remove it. We don't want it to be there.
okay. Go back to the task. Let's see. Let me
This is the
let
task.
me
This is the task.
okay. See what we do. Do
Uh,
okay. Do if I equal to if I equal to 100. You know
okay.
what it is? Equal to 100. When that I max 100,
Leave.
continue.
I say continue.
Continue.
Yeah,
What continue we do?
continue. Then print our see what to first we should print that space before this continue. We should print
Okay.
our
Let me.
space.
Abi if
That
I
will
equal.
that will
Wait,
not work.
what's the space? The space makes it 101, Abi.
Yes.
Okay, so what we do? Don't worry, continue. If I equal to 100, continue. Enter. Then
Okay.
put up space.
Hello.
Look at what we do.
The space make it
Let
101, Abi.
yes, please
Sis, wait, wait,
let us
sorry,
firstly
wait.
analyze this. Let us analyze this first, please, before you
If I
before you come
equal
up with.
equal 101, break now. Kó parí.
Not 101, 100.
If it is
Not
equal to 100, but you say continue. Continue means it will continue. And
Yes, now.
if we use continue means it will continue. It will just jump
Continue
this
means like to
100.
skip it.
It will just keep this
Skip
100 and it will
is
continue 101, 102.
Sorry,
That
what I
want to
was
put space, want to put a
um,
space there. Put
what I
put
was
your
asking is what is splitting your spaces? I can't see that. I don't know.
put your picture
Okay,
now. Put
okay,
your picture.
okay. This is what we have. Let me put the picture
Like when
back.
you print one space,
wait.
two space, what
Why
is
is
printing the
Prince
space?
F int outside the for loop?
Because this one is new line. We want to print the new line after the loop have already finished.
Habib,
Yes.
Habib,
Okay.
add your picture after that continue. Let's check first. Then we'll know
Okay.
what to do.
Abi, do you get my question?
Yes, I got it now. Say what?
So,
Why do we have this one
what
Wait,
is
here?
printing the space? No. That's not what I'm asking. So when you print one space, two space, what is printing that space?
What is
picture
printing the
now.
space is
Then
here. Is here.
in this one. Now take Habib, take.
Oh, okay.
Take.
Did you just put that there, or it was there before?
It was there before, so I removed it so that we can have the condition first.
Habib, take the last one.
Okay. I didn't see it, so I
Okay,
was confused.
let's go back to this. Let us just make our. Okay, for us to let us check the word count of this particular file. Word count. My word count. Is it going to be file name? I don't remember how we used to do that. It's going to be file name. Yes, file name. But I want the word count to be only. What we are having here is counting this value. Count all the like 1, 2, 3, 4, like all this one. You count them one
Plus
by one,
space.
plus space and all this one.
No.
So you can't really. What is it?
I don't get. How
Okay,
did
there's
you
a
now know
space after the
initially that
buzz, Abi.
there was a space there at
Okay,
the end of boss?
okay, go back. Habib, let me explain that thing. Go back
This
to our
is.
code.
I want.
Go
Okay,
back to
okay,
our code.
Eh?
Habib, go back to our code. Habib, let's see. Let's watch this now. Eh?
okay. I'm with you.
Let me explain from
Can I explain why this does not work?
let me explain first, then you take.
Okay,
Now go to line 13.
okay. Line
Line
13.
13. Yes.
Okay,
If this is not okay, it will move to line 14. It will move to line 15, right?
yes,
It will take until it gets to line 19, right?
yes,
Assuming it prints line 19, then
okay,
it will go to line 22 and ask a question.
yes,
If let's assume is one equal to 100? No, it will continue. It
okay,
will just keep it and continue. It will print this space
okay,
and go back to loop again.
okay.
Are we there? Then when we get to
I'm with you.
100,
Okay,
are you there?
I'm with
Is
you.
one yes, is 100. You remember that it will continue if the
If the
question there is false. Yes,
yes,
if I equals to 100, false. If 99 equals to 100, false. If 100 equals to 100, true. It will break down from there. So it can continue there. So if line 22 is true, if
yes,
22 is true, it will
yes.
print.
Hello? If I
But
is equals to 100, it will enter the first if statement now.
if
Because
I is
100 can be divided by 5.
No, you don't get it. If
no no
if I is 100, I'm just taking how it runs. That if that if continue will break
Hello.
when this is true.
No, I'm saying there's an if statement on top of it, like to enter first. So it's going to print this bus. You're now saying if I gets to 100 again, it will continue and it will not print the picture. Is that what you're saying?
Look at what I'm saying. First condition I is 1. Okay? It will not I is 1. It will not print line 13. It will not print line 15. it will not print line 17, it will print line 19, right?
Yes.
After printing line 19, it will go to line 22 and ask a question. Is I equal to 100? The result is what? No. So
Okay.
it will neglect that line 22 and print a space and loop back again.
Okay.
So it will continue like this until it gets to 100.
Okay.
If it gets to 100, it should print line 17, right? That box.
Okay.
After
Yes.
printing line 17, it will
It
go
will
back
now
to
check.
and
Okay.
check is
100, 100 is equal to 100. That
so
is
it
true.
means yes, meaning that it can't continue there now. It will stop there.
Okay.
So
Okay,
Wait,
since
Now,
it's inside the if statement.
so it means that it will not print this space again. So it will break there. So that should be the clear explanation there.
now I want us to try to understand this continue the continue statement and break statement. When we use continue, when we use continue here, what this continue is going to do when it gets to 100? Because if we say I is equal to 100, this continue we actually check that value, and once the condition is not is true, the condition will this continue, unlike break. If it is break will break out of the loop, and it will just it's just like maybe if you want to skip 100 for instance, if you want to skip 100 for instance, so if you use continue, it's not going to print 100 and it will skip to the next value. But if we use break, it will, when we get to 100, it will just break out of the loop and it won't print anything again. And that is what I was trying to explain to you, that once this condition is get to 100, 100 is equal to 100. That is true. So this continue, what this continue will do here before this 24 is continue we skip that the new what's it called, this thing that is going to do, it's going to break out of it is because that what's it called, what we are printing is because it is not feasible. Let me actually add, let's add this. So let's use that so that we can check what we actually do. Wow.
Have you
Okay.
seen what I'm telling about?
Yes, yes.
Continue. Yes, now. So it will not print that line. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like you're telling it to stop.
When we get to 100, so when 100 is 100, we say continue, and it's not print the
Yes,
last
now.
value.
Continue. It means that you're breaking out.
Okay, let's try to,
Okay, it means you are breaking out of the loop.
Out of
yes,
the loop completely. Yes. So that's why I say that we should make use of I equal to
Sound no let
100
me hear.
because I
okay.
think I think I have come across this before.
But do you
No, the
know,
sound of
do,
the
do you
fan.
know, do
The
you know
sound
there
of
is
the
another,
fan, I can't
this
hear what
one,
they are saying. When I'm done.
okay, okay, I want to make this value, I want to make it 101. And when it gets to, how can we actually find out? If we increase this value by 1 and say 101, when it gets to 100, okay, let me say 101. So when it gets to 100, I want to see what that we do. Now,
I think there, see, go back to the this thing. Remember,
Check the code again.
wait, as you check the
Have,
code again, I
have
want
you
you to
checked
see
the code?
something here. I want you to see something here. The
Let me see
101,
the code.
okay, this is the code.
now is 101 equal to 100? No.
No,
It will print it now.
the continue works. Is
yes,
right.
it is.
Yes,
Stanley is
now.
right. The
I
continue works.
The continue works actually.
Now you see it's true. It's false. Since it's false, you should print that one. But when it's true, it will break. It breaks out.
okay. So it won't print that particular one. So that is why it does not include it here, right?
Yes. Now
Yes.
it's true.
Okay, okay, okay. Yes, that's true. But actually, there
Because,
is no.
but the truth is just that we okay. Let's think of we have done the condition of I equal to 100. Let's try another condition that should work because I think
Yeah.
it's logic. Many
I
things should
want to,
work.
I want to, I want to, I want to. The way I did my own was I just said, okay, if I, as long as I is less than 100, as long as I is less than 100, you should just include this picture. So if I is greater than 100, it's not going to include picture. And I know that from 1 to 100, once it get to 99, so I want to include this one. But once it get to 100,
This one
I
should
let,
work. Yes,
eh?
it should work.
Of
It
course,
should
now
work.
that is how I did mine.
It should work.
It say make. So you did the same thing.
It should work. So
And
change
now,
that to 100.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
change
Change
that one to 100.
it I to 100. It should still work also. In
100.
this one,
I'm coming, I'm coming.
it should
This is
still work.
how,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
But you know what? The first method actually looks like a real programmer's work.
Really?
It looks more, the first one that they continue sounds
yeah.
more
This guy is
like
looking at our
it sounds,
aesthetics.
it
Oh,
looks
guy, if it
clean.
works, it works.
I don't care.
So the
The
second
first
one,
one
the
looks
second
like,
one look
the
like
first one
what?
looks better actually. Let's just be facts.
Abi,
Just the facts.
Abi,
Yes.
the fact here is just that anyone that that we don't have one. If everybody does everything with one method, it means that we are all just copying from each other.
Of
So
course,
you
of
Yeah,
look,
course.
that's the beauty,
And
to be honest.
the person that said, one particular code is better than one. You can't actually find that one out until we get to algorithm and big O notation that we understand. Because if we have to check, the first thing we need to check, we check the what's it called, space complexity and the
Then they
time
go
Bros,
complexity.
DSA.
bros,
So you
bros,
understand?
let's
Eh?
go there,
Bros,
please.
now they carry us go DSA. I
Let's
beg
not.
go. Data science, I go already.
Abi,
Leave
So
it for
we
now.
Abi,
get that when we get
We'll
to
do
there,
Abi,
you
DSA later,
understand
I
that
beg.
that's the only
Abi,
thing
our
that
problem is, Abi, our
yeah.
problem is this boss. We are done with this boss. I beg
Of
no
We
course
have
carry.
done Fizz Bros.
we are done. No, we are done, and we are done for tonight.
But I want to ask a question, sir. I want to ask a question. I
Okay,
need
okay, okay,
solution.
boss. Okay, boss.
How how do you print out prime numbers? I can print other numbers except prime number. How do we get the condition of prime number?
Time
Who
number.
can yes, prime
Oh,
number.
sounds simple.
I actually discussed that thing with one of my bros, and
See,
everybody was just laughing. And
prime numbers,
the fact that
prime
we are
number solution is not. I don't know if Fibonacci question.
no, the prime number. I think it's under. Is it not recursion?
That
Yeah,
prime number.
sorry, I said Fibonacci. I meant recursion actually. I
Yes,
meant
it's
recursion.
under recursion. To be
Yeah,
honest,
it's under recursion. Yeah, we spent like 4 hours.
to be
I and some
honest,
guys trying to. We couldn't.
So
that is just the problem. I had to leave that particular task because it just make me go crazy.
they might do you know all these tasks that we do leave
Yeah,
any task that we do leave like that that task is a task that will still come back one day to haunt you.
of course, sure.
Because
Even me,
do you know
I'm also looking for a way of finding.
that quiz that we did that day, that quiz number 4 that we tackled to 1 o'clock. I did,
Yeah.
I remember
Yes,
that
yes,
quiz
yes,
number 4.
yes.
Many 90% of people don't really know what happened there.
Yes, that's
So
true.
it's better instead of leaving a particular question untouched, it's better
Better
we
to
just
just yes,
yes.
yes, that's true. That's
Method is
true.
always good because
Yeah,
And
first.
one day you
but
might
Stanley, but do you know what you can actually do? Can we work towards finding way of doing it next weekend? So that maybe after our task on Friday, we can just start. Maybe we can use Saturday to just try to brainstorming on how to do it, do a lot of research because I did all
okay
I
on
could.
prime numbers, right?
Yes, so that we can be because I want to do it also. I want
Okay,
to
for the
find a
prime
way of
We
doing
need
numbers,
it to learn.
there is
yes,
a
prime
normal
Yes,
way
number.
of solving it, and there is the
Yes,
so the
yes,
recursion. Any question, all the recursion questions we are doing is over the top. People rarely use recursion to solve anything unless they explicitly tell you to use recursion to solve it.
yes.
So recursion is like the kettle is another kettle of fish on its own. So there is
But
a normal way of solving prime numbers.
but do you know in time of time complexity, the question is more faster than the actual the normal loop.
And but it takes space.
Yes, that is the problem. Yes, yes.
It takes
So if
space.
the base condition is not well defined, we run out of stack memory.
Yeah, it takes space. So it's not space efficient. Even in terms of
Yeah,
time complexity, it's almost the same with a while loop or a for loop,
but
to
it
be
is
honest.
Iteration, Abby.
It's
yes,
almost the same
yes.
because it's running is O of n. So it's still running with the same, it's still running, it takes space. That's where the problem is. So
Yeah,
recursion
it
is not
takes.
usually like it's not usually advanced. We're just learning it because obviously you
Yes,
need to
yes.
know all these things. But there
The
are
use case of it will actually come out one day, so that you won't find the another means of doing it
people
than to use
rarely
the
use
question.
it, to be honest.
Of
It's
course,
just
but
Well,
that you might have a task where maybe or an interview that they might tell you to explain something in terms of recursion. That's when the knowledge will be helpful. But in terms of your everyday work,
but
you barely use it.
today's work, at least you can work on
yes, prime
that
number.
number
We
by
try to
week. Yeah,
try
by
to
week.
do.
Yeah.
I
So I
will.
want to ask
Um,
you guys a question. Do you guys
Okay.
spend every day? Do you guys spend every day doing like a this thing on the each task? Like after at the end of each day, maybe would you guys do the like do this thing, a Google Meet about like the concept of each task? Because me, I'm not usually I'm not usually following the group chat always because the
That
questions there are too much.
that is the issue. We used to do it a day after the task, so that we know everybody will be busy on the day of the task, but the second day, the next day, we used to solve all the questions, especially the one
Sorry, are you
that
talking of on
kind of.
our group chat? Do we do this on our group chat?
Yes,
no,
we used. Oh, no,
yeah,
used to.
we have other
Oh,
business now.
oh,
Okay,
oh,
I've met Habib
not
for a
this
long
group chat.
it's
Sorry,
not
sorry,
our own
sorry,
group.
sorry, sorry.
I've met Habib so many times. Habib, right?
Abib, I will text you after this class. Don't worry. In fact, I'll
Boss,
text all of you. Seems like
no,
seems like you
no,
guys are
no
because me
problem.
that tax this particular this group chat, I
Yes,
don't know why. Like the messages are just too much questions, and
you've
during the day, some
already.
of us have things we are doing, other things
Yes,
we are
I know,
doing.
I know. Actually,
So
there's
I'll
no
open
way
my
of
WhatsApp and I'll
there's
be
no way
seeing
we can
over 500 chats. Kilo
there's
day.
no way we can control that. We can't stop people from sending messages. That is the problem.
I'm just saying that's why I probably need someone to just like update me at times instead of me waiting for
No,
to
no
get
problem.
messages on that place.
But I actually like reading the group chat because you see a lot of. I know it takes
Even
time, but you see a lot of questions that have been answered, a
that
lot
is
of
just the truth.
solutions.
That is just the truth. So sometimes if you have time, you can just just check. Yeah, I wanted to use loop. You can look through all the messages. Yes, we are programmer. We should be using
Yeah,
programming
you can
terms.
look through them now.
So just look through all the messages. So then you can just scan to check the one that is going to be of what's it called, value to you. So don't worry
But
now. I
the
will
fact
be.
is just that, when we started this thing, the truth was that I was lost until that was around the when we entered that debugging side.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
started at first. We started the Halo word at first. And if people that don't get that Halo word, that first, do have a very big problem at the long run.
Of course, because we are now our last task, we are now using it. All the
If
preprocessor, everything that we don't understand before, now we are using it
you're using it.
to
So you really need
to
to
create
get
an
that
object.
Halo word first.
Do you know my own advice, especially for somebody that is a pure beginners? My own advice is, even if you copy code, try to read through all those codes, and if possible, look for somebody that will explain that code you copied
The,
for you.
the, the fact is just that when after doing your task, you
You
go
feel
back to the code.
relaxed.
Yes, that's what I
You,
usually do. Like the truth
you
is,
go
the
back to
truth
the
is,
code.
most of the times I just like copy those codes just to do the tags. Then have to go back
Do
there
you
and
know that?
like start looking at
Do you
them
know that
again.
for me, any line that I don't understand, I just write that line down somewhere, the task down. Even if you're done with C, I will still look for somebody that would. Okay, I met some people ahead of us, other cohort four ahead of us. If you ask them questions on C, many of them copied from their their people ahead of them. So
Predecessor,
many,
yeah.
yes, many people in this that are still here, because many have left. Many that are still here. They just dey copy, they go.
Yeah,
They don't
so
even they
they don't
don't
even
even
try
want
to.
to
That is
even
the
if
problem.
I
even
was
if you
speaking with
don't get
someone self the other day, and he was saying that the major thing C is not what brought him to this ALX. So he's just going to just finish his tasks for C for the sake of doing it. That is really waiting for Python, JavaScript, and the rest.
but the
Like I
fact is
always say,
But the person is
we're
actually
not
making
learning
the big.
C for
The
C.
person is actually making a big mistake from doing it
That's
for
true. I
Yes.
doing
was
that.
trying to let him know that see, understanding C will be easier, like will help in
It will make you,
understanding like
of course. That is
the
just it.
rest of them.
the person don't even get it. In C, we make use of printf. In JavaScript, we make use of console log.
Console
The
dot
same,
Console
yes, console
log.
dot log.
the same thing. So if you don't get C, you are looking for JavaScript. How can you? This one will make it. You know that this is a low level language, and
And
it
you
needs
And it
understand
is
the
more.
very close to
concept.
machine language. So you will
Yes,
understand everything that is happening. When I was learning JavaScript, I never understand how variable is being stored in our this thing. I never understand everything
God
at
bless you,
all
Abib.
until now.
This yes,
But
this
this
past
like
like few weeks of learning C. I was writing JavaScript yesterday, but it was just flowing. Like it could flow. Like I could understand what I was doing better than I was
that
writing
is
before.
it. Like we understand everything you are doing. You will know, like you will predict the result and it will just be accurate.
that is why
But
this C is see. That's they say that is not beginners friendly. Fine, but you don't have any choice than to learn it.
that is it.
Just get it.
But
That is me. Oh.
if we do really used to take our time to go back to previous tasks we've done, even though then they were also hard, you can see that all those tasks are now easy for us. Like because we've already gone through everything, and now everything is just like wow.
Most of those tasks we have done. That is
Yes,
why if you really need to learn this thing, you should
that
still
is
go. You
that
should
is
go
it.
back.
Go back and learn it.
Okay,
Go back,
that
understand
you
everything.
know that that evaluation quiz that we did that people felt 60, 50,
Yes,
30%. That first evaluation quiz.
yes.
70%, 90% of people have not gone back to check what really happened there.
But that is just the problem.
Someone
They
is
don't
saying
know
should someone is saying should explain what vagrant is. Oh. So if you want to explain it,
what's
please.
the okay. Can someone
Uh,
explain the essence of fragrance? Stanley, will you take that?
Now that background now which now they use. Oh. But just that
You've
the
not been
I
background
using
is
it.
use
not
I use Vagrant too, but at
I
times
don't use
I'll just use their sandbox at times.
So
no I use
vagrant, let me
background.
just vagrant is a virtual machine. What it means is that is like it creates a partition on your drive where you can run. For example, we are running Ubuntu, so you can run Ubuntu on your system without installing
Yes,
Ubuntu OS.
yes,
So
yes,
basically, that's what
So
we use
you
vagrant
use
for.
Ubuntu Stamina.
Yeah, you can use Ubuntu terminal exactly without
yes, yes.
installing it directly on
Thank,
your
thank you,
OS.
thank you, Samuel. Yeah, that is just it. It is
That's
just
what-
an what's it called, virtual environment that will be independent of your machine. So you can do anything in your virtual environment that won't interfere with anything you have in your machine, and that is the
yes.
essence.
Good. Yes,
So
exactly.
that
That's the
any
very
any
important point.
program you are running, when we get to Python, we'll be asked to still install some of the what's it called, the environment for Python. So
Yes.
now if you are running it on your local machine, you can be encounter some issue like all these part issues, like you are not, maybe you didn't install the right part and everything like that. So you will get, when you get there, you will understand. So but Vagrant is very, very good, and Vagrant is not the only virtual
No, I use
environment.
background though. Do you know why I like? I use background a lot. I
I
use
like
background.
it is what I'm using too.
I use background. I just connect it with my direct.
In fact, in my virtual environment, I've already installed what's it called, Ubuntu OS on my virtual environment. But since
And
I've been using Vagrant, I stopped using that Ubuntu OS
I'm
and just
using
use
background. So everything they copy and paste. They even direct. Never even
yes,
waste.
yes,
No, they
yes.
even waste time. What thing
Yeah,
I've used
a
in my
very
life?
important thing Abib mentioned about that vagrant is that you can install anything and it will affect your system. That's
Of course,
like
you don't have. That
a
is the
very
essence. That is the
important thing.
that is
That
very
is the
important.
yeah, yeah.
Do you know
You
that?
know,
Do you know that?
there's some program you will run on your system that will affect every other thing in your system, and it
Yeah.
won't make your program
Yes.
to run just fine. So virtual environments we save you from that kind of stress.
Just it's like running it online.
Yes,
It is like
exactly.
it's running it online. So it is not like connecting your building your RAM more. So
Yes,
your
yes.
RAM is not there for you. But the worst is sandbox. That ALS sandbox is very
It's
useless.
rubbish. It's
Guy,
You
They've
guys are
already,
saying is rubbish.
you can,
You know
guy,
what it
the
takes
code,
to build that intranet and the sandbox and everything?
guy,
Guy,
the code
those
where
people
I
did
ran that
work.
program, you'll be writing something, it will get to the string. It will start correcting the ones you have written before. God.
Stanley, you
If
can
I
be
see
the
it as
decision.
rubbish, me, I'm appreciating it because it takes a lot of work to build that platform that those guys have built.
Thank you,
They
Samuel.
actually tried to.
Stanley, you be the one to create another sandbox for us that will look the same way Ubuntu or Vagrant is.
I pray. Oh.
So we should actually appreciate their effort. Like those
No,
guys
no,
are
no,
really
no,
trying.
they try to,
They are
they,
trying.
they,
Before they can
they,
write, all the code, all the checkers,
Somebody has
they
a
have to
question though,
they have to
as
write a
regards
script.
infinite loop.
Okay,
infinite
okay.
group. The person should check
Just
debugging.
write. You will say you will
The
type. Just type.
debugging is
Just click Control C. It will take you out of the loop.
the loop, yeah.
Control C.
But how do
Francis,
you
can
say
you hear us?
but how do you know an infinite loop when it doesn't have any condition of either incrementing or
Decrement.
decrementing? So
And
that is
in,
how
in,
to
in a
know.
case of recursion, when you have a wrong case base or a
Yes,
base
make use of
result,
control C to stop the loop when it's excess.
yeah. Thank you
I
very
think
much, guys. I really enjoyed tonight's session, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well.
and
Yeah, we
many
do.
people will uh, so to Victor, is he still recording? Is he here?
Victor, are you still there?
Victor, we talking the record. Where in the